What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to A Flair for the Curious. I'm your host, Anthony Swindell, and on today's episode of the podcast, I'm talking with Jessica Gonzalez, aka the Mommy Jane.
My brother's girlfriend told me a few years prior when I was starting the Mommy Jane, she's like, one day we're going to read about you in High Times. And I was like, what? No way. But I didn't realize, like, I needed to believe in myself more.
And appear on High Times she did. Because Jessica has had quite the influence over the emerging cannabis culture as host of The Mommy Jane's Neighborhood, a platform that can be found on Instagram at The Mommy Jane. On her platform, she has thoroughly educational, inspirational, and entertaining posts that are really contributing to destigmatizing the use of cannabis for recreational enthusiasts as well as people looking to get the medicinal benefits of holistic plant medicine. I know her for quite some time, so we didn't really dig into her backstory, which includes using cannabis to transform her life, where she lost 100 pounds, she quit alcohol, and this overall contributed to her ability to get off of prescription medicines. If you're interested in hearing more about her backstory, there has been quite a bit of press on her. You can read about her in High Times, of course, and I'll have some links to some other write-ups that were done on her. You can also hear about her story on a couple of other podcasts, including Kendra After Dark and The Now Show, N-O-W-E, where she goes into a little bit more about her background and how cannabis helped her on her healing journey. There will be links to some of the things I mentioned in the show notes, including those other podcasts where you can hear more about the Mommy Jane. You can also find some links to some of her write-ups as well as some of her platforms. She is also on YouTube. She's got a great channel where she reviews a lot of products related to the cannabis industry, various wellness products. She's a big advocate for wellness and health, and I really am inspired by the work she does. Feel free to send us some feedback at aflairforthecurious@gmail.com, and if you've got an extra second, please go rate and review this podcast. If you're on Apple Podcasts, shoot it a 5-star review, or if you're listening anywhere else, give it a like, and if you got a couple extra seconds, I would love some feedback in the form of a review as well. All the links you need are also at aflairforthecurious.com. Alright friends, I'm really excited to be bringing you this conversation I had with my homie Jessica Gonzalez. I really hope you enjoy it. Here it is, the Mommy Jane.
And the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Jessica, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I think it's wonderful that you came out so early today.
Yes.
Bright and early, 8 a.m. It's great for a couple of reasons. One, because I don't know if you noticed, but it looks like my neighbors are setting up a party, and so maybe we'll be done before the mariachis start. And
oh my gosh. And then we can join them.
Yeah. But also because we're going to be talking about cannabis today, and you being here at 8 a.m. is from the get-go breaking the stigma that people who consume cannabis are lazy. So,
oh, I love that. Yes.
So I think right away from the start, we're heading off in a good direction. So you are the founder of the Mommy Jane.
Yes.
What is that?
The Mommy Jane started after I started to educate myself. We all have a story about cannabis, and I had a good relationship off and on throughout my teens and 20s, but I really didn't understand the medicinal benefits of it until my 30s. Once I obtained that information, I really wanted to inform everybody around me, and when I did it to my friends and family, it fell to deaf ears because I realized not everyone's ready to hear the information. So I created the Mommy Jane because I felt like even if my friends and family don't want to hear it, somebody needs to hear this. Someone needs to know about the benefits of this plant. So I created it unbeknownst to myself. Like, I really just did it not selfishly because I was doing it for other people, but I really didn't anticipate the outcome. You know, it really hit great traction. I really had changed lives and impacted people more than I could have ever imagined. People were saying, you know, I found your account right when I was about to commit suicide.
Wow.
Yeah. I've had several people reach out to me, and that's some heavy stuff, you know, like things you just don't realize that you're putting out there in a positive way is going to positively change everyone else too. So amazing to see people do that. And then
that platform is on Instagram.
It was just Instagram
so
only.
You have the Mommy Jane Neighborhood.
Yeah, the Mommy Jane Neighborhood is my Instagram.
And you're
following.
At Twitter on the Mommy Jane.
And eventually we're going to get the Mommy Jane website back up probably next month. So I don't know when this is going to launch, but check out www.themommyjane.com and just follow me on the social medias. But it really was impressive how one little community ended up growing so quickly over a common cause, which is we wanted to raise the consciousness of our lives with cannabis.
Yeah.
And that's kind of also why I'm here today too, to talk about both those things.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're doing some advocacy.
Yes.
You're doing stigma busting.
Yes.
You're doing education.
Yes.
And a shitload of inspiration.
A shitload of inspiration.
All around.
All day, every day. Honestly, having a friend like Anthony in front of me right now, seeing him chase his dream is like, that's what I live for. Like I feed off of your like ambition. And I love seeing people when they're in their dharma, and you've always, in my opinion, you've always been in your dharma, but I really feel like you're just spreading such beautiful wings right now with this. And I can't wait to see what comes from this podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a blossoming and I think we're all definitely sharing in each other's enthusiasm, right? So part of what gave me the confidence to do it is because I know so many people who are doing awesome things that I'm like, oh, I would love to give these people a platform to share the cool things they're doing, which you absolutely are. So yeah, we're all sharing in each other's
splendor,
communal splendor.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it really is, and you feel it too. Like I don't know if you guys can feel energy through radio waves like I can, but like in this room right now, it's like. It's going wah 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 in a good way. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, you bring a lot of energy. That's one of the reasons I was really excited to sit down and talk to you too, because so we've known each other maybe like
10
9 years. I think maybe we first met at Joseph's rubber ducky birthday party.
Okay, yeah.
Right before I moved out of town and cut my hair and lost a bunch of weight.
Right.
So we've worked together. I worked at the restaurant with you and your husband.
That's
but
right.
Generally we only get like 5 or 10 minutes at the kids' birthday parties to chit chat. I think maybe like a year ago I sat down with you and your husband and we were able to talk a little bit about like meditation, go a little bit deeper, but we were still at the kids' birthday party, and I know you and I particularly tend to go off in a little crazy directions.
You're my favorite to talk to at kids' parties. I'm like, yes, we're going to get esoteric right now.
But, I think we kind of always like wrangle it back in, or, don't want to be too like excluding of other people. And so I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us, as we started before we started recording, talking about some far out topics and really diving in and going where we want with this conversation.
Yeah, we're going to get far out, guys.
This is great. So on your platform, on Instagram, the Mommy Jane Neighborhood, you've been featured in a few different publications and websites because you've got a lot of followers and you are an influencer, I understand.
Yeah, they call me an influencer.
What they call, right?
I like to see myself as an educator, but you know what? I'm nominated right now for 2 California Cannabis Awards, one being for influencer and the other one being for an advocate. And honestly, like, as touched as I was to be seen as an influencer, I really got emotional to be seen as an advocate, because my punk rock side is like, yes, girl, you are the advocate. Keep on keeping on,
Yeah.
So I'm just really, really honored. And in any way they want to recognize me is fine. I mean, I am the influencer. That's fine. I'll be the influence.
Yeah, I love it. I'm feeling influenced right now. I'm not so savvy about all of the new ways that cannabis is being infused through the community. So what are the California Cannabis Awards?
Oh, it's so crazy to see stuff like this, because, I always joke that we are in Hollyweed, because I don't know how other cannabis industries regulate or operate out of state, because I'm in my own bubble, but it's so funny to see how this whole place like kind of glamorized cannabis, really.
Yeah.
And all of us have become these sort of like cannabis celebrities, and it's such an odd thing when we go to these events and how I see people are treated, and how I myself am treated. I mean, it's really insane. I was just a regular mom like 2 years ago, and to see like they have the Oscars, pretty much, they call themselves the Oscars of the cannabis community. So I have not attended. I saw the photos from last year. People are definitely in gowns and tuxes, and there's a red carpet. It's like that whole thing. Cool. I do not know what I'm wearing yet. So I'm definitely want to try and like support a small designer and give them some love.
So speaking of not knowing what you're wearing and supporting a designer, so I think one of the reasons that you might have such a huge following is because your photos are also stellar.
Thank you.
Your husband does a lot of photography. I don't know if he does all of your work, but
most of it.
All of your shots are glamorous, and I've known you as a person who's you go to Dapper Days at Disneyland.
Yes.
You guys, and you've got like this pinup style, so
Yes.
it's very alluring to the eyes, and I can see why it's very easy for people to click and subscribe and follow, and you're visually very enticing for people to tap into, I think.
Yeah. I think it's important to show all sides of the cannabis industry because, I grew up in the Bay Area. I myself am in yoga pants and Chat t-shirts half my week, but like I really wanted to operate on the level that, hey, you can smoke cannabis all day long and be that office persona and be, whatever that you want to be in life and still conduct an upstanding citizen and be a good person.
Yeah. You really bring it down to earth, and I think that's possibly why people are into it too, because you talk about doing it in your jammies, and like on your YouTube video you're trying out pimple cream, like cannabis pimple cream, and so you're
normalizing.
That's something we can talk about too is your YouTube channel. You've got some great product reviews, and it looks like that's really going to be expanding in the future.
Yeah.
But you're showing people that you're down to earth, and we can wear sweats, but then we can also doll it up. And
everyone has those
nice.
sides. Yeah, we all have that. I mean, everyone has a yin and a yang, and sometimes I'm like I call it homeless chic. Sometimes I'm just red carpet ready. So. Yeah. It's just, we all got to play a role. As Shakespeare said, life is a stage. So let's have some fun.
Indeed. Fun. Yeah. Fun is the name of the game. Yeah. And I think it's super cool that your husband's into it too, because like you guys make an awesome pair.
Oh man, that took a while. It took years, you guys. Listen, if you are in my position and you're like, my spouse or whatever is so against it, just trust in the process and release. Let go of the fact that don't attach to the idea of them being okay with it. Just be okay with it with yourself and be okay with the outcome, and everything will fall into place.
You're referring to cannabis right now.
Yeah.
I was talking about dressing up nice.
Oh. Well.
But yeah, both of those things are important to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm glad that he came around, and you've come out on a couple of other podcasts I've listened to, and you talk a lot about your story. So I'd like to touch on it a little bit, but not maybe repeat too much. But the fact that he likes to get dappered up is fun for me to watch, because of course everybody likes to look at pinup girls, but as a dude, I also like to look for inspiration for
Heck
how
yes.
I dress. And
I follow a lot of pinup girls for that reason. Yes. Oh my God, the inspiration, you guys. The internet is a bounty of inspo. Get out there. If you're not feeling inspired, you're not using the internet right.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about your platform a little bit.
Okay.
What are you going to be doing on YouTube?
Well, YouTube was started because we are shopping a television show, and the concerns of the producer is that I don't have any other platforms that are rocking right now. So at this point, we're going to work on YouTube. I need to start being more active on Facebook and Twitter, even though I'm not a fan of Facebook whatsoever. But you got to do what you got to do, because I need to spread my message, and regardless of how I feel about a platform or not, the message still needs to get out there. So YouTube has begun, and we are also working on a very special Patreon, not just for the Mommy Jane. It's going to be a collective between myself and a friend of mine. So that'll be e-education in the highest regards, and that's where I really want to focus coming into 2020.
Yeah. Oh, 2020. I want to talk about that in a bit. So the things you've done in the past. So some of the features that you came out in MG Magazine, VegasCannabisMag.com, ElevateHerbs.com in their Women in Cannabis section, and something that I was super excited about. Of course, you're looking at my face. You know what I'm going to say. High Times. Right? The big build up. So I used to read High Times before the internet, when it was a
magazine.
It was a paper magazine, right? So to see somebody that I know in the flesh come to this, what I guess now is to this magazine, it was amazing. I was super happy to see you in there. What was that like?
I'm not gonna lie, I cried because I was on the cover of the website. I was on the top of the website. You click on and it was there. Like the image is orange and yellow, orange and blue. It's my logo of my image of myself, but it's such a I was really in my moment taking those pictures that day, and to be able to see that transcend into an even higher moment. When I took those photos, I never thought they'd be for High Times. I was taking it for a completely different thing. And so oh my God, I was flabbergasted, because my brother's girlfriend told me a few years prior when I was starting the Mommy Jane, she's like, one day we're going to read about you in High Times. And I was like, what? No way. But I didn't realize I needed to believe in myself more. And at that time, I didn't have the confidence. I hadn't gone through my spiritual awakening. So I was just my low vibe self, for lack of better words, Yeah. I didn't believe in myself, but I'm so glad that she did, because that started a catalyst of the maybe. And even if I didn't maybe believe in that moment, something in me did. And it kind of held on, you know?
Yeah.
So it was really, really special. And I know, like, you guys are, like, saying, like, why is she getting emotional over a magazine? But that's so iconic. You know, that's such an iconic moment for, like, for a model, if they want to be on Vogue, like, maybe that's their thing. But, like, for myself and what I do as an advocate, as a mother, to see a mom up there, you know, blue wig and just, you know, just being herself. Like, I am myself unapologetically. Yes, I wear wigs. Yes, I am who I am. And, you know, I've lived so many different lives. I've been 100 pounds heavier and living that life. You've lost weight, you know, it's like, that's a whole different life that you're living too. And then the aftermath after you lose weight and who you are and how you see yourself afterwards, that's another lifetime too. So I'm living all these different lifetimes, and it's so crazy to see myself go through it. But really, that was a highlight of this year, and it'll probably be a highlight of my career as well.
Nice. So would you say it felt like validation?
It was without sounding so cocky, but yeah, I definitely felt like, okay, Jess, like, you know what you're doing now. Like, keep on going, baby. Don't stop.
Yeah, you're in it. Yeah,
I'm in the vortex.
Cool. So cool. Yeah, it was great, and it was a great article too.
Thank you.
So much fun.
You.
Yeah, and like I said before, the photos I think make people interested to see it. But I'm sure it helps people open up to letting you onto their platforms.
Yeah,
right? Like why wouldn't somebody want to market that?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just a nice mom. Yeah. Come listen to me talk about cannabis.
Yeah, and so your educational aspect. Last year you did like a couple proper workshops where you invited people in. And it wasn't just you. You had a whole panel of different professionals and educators, informing people and giving out awesome goodie bags.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of your past events. What kind of educational programs have you had?
I've done some events in the past, especially with social equity. I've been big on. We've talked about roles of women in cannabis in the industry. I've had a pleasure to share these panels with some women that I really hold in high regard. So it's just really grateful to be in that space and be able to stand with them in those moments. But really big for me. The goodie bags are great, but the biggest part for me is connecting to people in person. I don't get to do that very often because I am an internet personality. So I love that I get to meet people in person and educate in person. That way they can ask those questions afterwards and do the one-on-one. So I'm a big fan of those in the past. And what we're trying to cultivate, because I know I'm only growing bigger and broader. That's why that e-education is going to be so big. And we're going to try and do virtual events to keep people feeling inclusive, still educate, and, make sure that people are staying up to date and informed, because, even just this week, we started learning about vape pens and the dangers of that as well. And I think with more research and as time goes on, we'll start to find more things that are going to change. And so, why not be the one that's going to give that information out?
Hell yeah. I like the idea of doing the e-education, because even though we are a hugely populous state, and people even come here for cannabis tourism.
Yes.
Not everybody has access to traveling or being here. So
some people are disabled too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for a variety of reasons, people can't get here in person. So offering that e-education, that's going to be a great way to branch out
with perks too.
With perks too.
Yeah, I still want them to feel like they can get, like, maybe we can figure out ways to have swag bags that are mailable, things items that can cross state borders, and hopefully eventually we can get to that point where we can mail real product,
Yeah. That's something I'm curious about, the products that are legal or not THC based. So I'm kind of an old school cannabis user. I haven't even delved into CBD at all.
Oh my God, I'm going to leave you with my bottle then.
I have read about what full spectrum is versus like the CBD concentrate. But I'm curious. Before we move on, let's close up talking about your platform a little bit.
Yeah.
More. What other adventures you have going on your platform?
Okay, well, I recently obtained a manager, so she's been on I've been on her radar for a while now, and I finally succeeded this summer and got her, and she's been really focused on getting me out into the community. So you guys will be seeing more community outreach. I definitely want to volunteer more and help. There's this program my husband and I actually just got attached to because of his work. He did a shoot for the homeless children in Costa Mesa. Oh, wow. And they do school supplies and food supplies. So we were telling the girls, like, hey, maybe we don't go out to eat a few nights a month, and we use that money to buy them stuff, so I definitely want to do more community outreach. let's see. And we're shopping the show next year, so I hope that goes well. We already have some people interested, but we're going for bigger entities to see if some people already say yes, then who else can say yes, So, and I hope that they continue to keep me as the host, because that'd be really exciting. But Green Bee Entertainment is about to launch, and that'll be 24 hours of content education on a channel. So you can get it for your smartphone, smart TV, and that'll be myself and a staff of others that are going to be educating 24 hours a day, looping
about cannabis related
content, education. Cannabis content. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm really grateful that I got to be part of that entourage, because
that's so cool.
They could have picked anybody. It was a really limited group, and I got in there. I always say I Gatsby myself in.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So let's get some of that education that you have. What the hell is Full Spectrum? Why do I want it? What's going on with the cannabis world these days?
Oh my gosh.
How can I branch out from just being a closet stoner?
I'm so glad that you asked about Full Spectrum and CBD. I was actually an old school smoker myself up until about 2 years ago. So even then when I was hearing about CBD, I thought, who fucking cares? I'm already getting all of it in my flower anyway. And then I started taking it on a regular basis. Excuse me. And then I started taking it in a more full spectrum sense on a pill form. The last 3 months, there's this specific brand called Sana Formulas. If you are lucky enough to live in California, I highly recommend you look into them. This is a micro-dosed full spectrum capsules formulas that she's created. So she took a adversity in her life. She had an accident and obtained amount of money and decided to open up this company to heal others through the money that she got. So great intention behind the product. And since I've taken her product, I have severe social anxiety where I wasn't able to even look people in the eye prior to talking to them. I'd search around the room for anything, but I can even on podcasts, I've been looking at my interviewers or interviewee. I don't know. You're the interviewer, I guess, right? Yeah. Interviewer. And I never was able to do that before. Even those moments at the grocery store, I've been able to connect with people in passing. And this is just in the last 3 months. And I've been taking CBD off and on for 2 years. But to have that sort of freedom to conversate with people I didn't have before. I have more of a desire to leave the house. I would be so scared and make excuses in the past. Anthony, I have a stomachache. I can't come today. I would make excuses not to record a podcast or make excuses not to show up to an event because I'd be so socially anxious or scared to drive. But this raw microdose full spectrum has really changed my life.
So a microdose is below the threshold of what would intoxicate a person.
Yeah. I would say so. Everyone's good. My husband's very sensitive to THC, so even 2.5 milligrams of THC can fuck him up. But myself, if I take on a daily basis just a capsule, she has these different ratios depending on what your ailments are. And she tells you, she's very great about, telling you, take this for this. She's helped immensely with my menstrual cramps. I had suffered for years to the point where I'd have headaches and fevers and all this crazy shit, immobile in my bed. My husband would have to stay home from work. It was just awful. And I'd lose work when I used to work too. So just not a way of living life. In the last 3 months, I've also been able to have pain-free menstruations and very minimal headaches. I had one earlier when I came in, but after that toke, it's already gone. So being able to have that control over my health and mental state of mind. When you have cramps like that debilitating you, you're not in a good mental state of mind. Snapping at your kids with PMS, that's not a good state of mind. And being able to have that through cannabis and meditation and mindfulness, we practice all that in my house. My kids are very aware of that I use cannabis. I use CBD isolate on them. So it's just the molecule isolated. That way there's no chance for any sort of intoxication. Some CBD brands, if they are full spectrum, you will get THC in it and it will show up on your drug test. So you got to be really careful depending on how sensitive your company is. Some companies won't care if it's trace amounts, but other companies absolutely will.
And that's changing too.
You guys can get CBD products at CVS that are going to be safe for your kids if you're looking for that. I prefer dispensaries myself, but there are companies like Select, which are carried in dispensaries, and also CVS. I would start with, brands like that, Papa and Barkley, that are a little bit more mainstream, that what you're getting yourself into for that.
All right. And what's the difference between the CBD that's isolated and the full spectrum?
Full spectrum will have other molecules like CBN, CBG, CBDA, and all those other molecules that are going to help. It's I always joke with my friends, do you want to go to a party with one friend or would you like to show up with a group of friends? You're going to still have fun with one friend, but if you have all your other friends there, it's going to be even more fun.
And none of those are psychoactive?
Those are not psychoactive. CBN is psychoactive. Not all. It just depends on the products. Not all products contain CBN because CBN is a byproduct of THC that's been decarboxylized and so on and so forth. So it gets really sciencey. I'm not going to bore you guys on that right now, but you can Google it and find out for yourself all that. But microdosing, everyone's been really big on macrodosing. Oh, I need 5,000 milligrams to take care of my cancer and blah, blah, blah. You really don't. I mean, some people will, but everyone's dose is going to be determined on what it's going to be so personalized. It's not like our medicine that we take now, what we're used to with pharmaceuticals. It's really going to be more personalized.
And that's a big reason why they're having a hard time making like an intoxication test for cannabis too, right? Because it's hard to tell when somebody's intoxicated.
Everyone's bioavailability is going to be different with every drug, with all food even, you know? So I might be able to handle 3 cups of coffee, but Anthony might not, you know? It just depends on what this sort of thing is. So if you know your body, you're going to always start low and slow, and you can always increase, you guys. It's just like with everything in life. So, you can absolutely medicate with microdose amounts, trace amounts of, I'm talking less than 1 milligram of CBD, less than 1 milligram of THC, and it's still handling my anxiety. So amazing stuff out there, you guys. Definitely do your research. Do not buy your CBD from a mall or a magazine. I repeat, do not buy your CBD from a mall or a magazine. That's my PSA.
Maybe like 15 some odd years ago, I had a buddy who was just really trying to like sell hemp products and push hemp.
Shit.
And like yesterday, I was at the local grocery store, the Vons, and they've got like a whole like end cap, all like hemp stuff. And I'm just like, man, we couldn't have imagined 20 years ago,
even 5 years ago,
so commercial. This no pad is hemp. Like,
I love hemp. Oh my god,
it's so wonderful to see it out there. Now, when it comes to finding products and finding consistency, that's something that even as a just a flower consumer, I have a really hard time with. So, like, I guess back in the day, I would have considered myself a connoisseur with the palate of like a wine sommelier for cannabis, being able to tell different flavor profiles and whatnot. Throughout the years, I've worked for friends. I've tried to live under the radar a bit, maybe do an exchange. So I've helped people with their personal grows. And so I've been a part of this underground industry for a little while. And so I've gotten some exposure to different varieties of strains and growing techniques and whatnot. But now that I'm kind of done with all that, and I'm just, I'll go to buy my product from the dispensary when I can afford it. They never have the same product. I can never really sometimes products with the same name will vary week to week.
Yes.
So like I know that I've heard you talk about, and I've read about you talking about going for strains that meet your needs at any given time. How do you find the consistency amongst products to know what you're getting into, and how do you gauge which ones you can trust?
That's a great question. My big thing right now, what I'm getting into and where I'm going to be educating myself furthermore going into 2020 is terpenes. Terpenes, know your terpenes, you guys. Know the terpenes that are going to benefit you. And you can Google the terpenes and find out with your ailments which ones are going to reflect positively for what you're looking for. So when I was trying to lose weight, I'm not going to go look for cushes that are going to make me couch locked, appetite increasing. I need to find like landrace sativas that were going to keep me not in a high cerebral high, but still appetite suppressant, enough energy for yoga and gym, whatever you want to do, but not that crash that you can get from other ones that have more like myrcene and linalool and other more. Not debilitating, because it's not debilitating, but just more, low energy, I guess you could say. And like I said, there's some people that can smoke that and still get energy. Like I had a boyfriend back in the day, and he was like, I could fall asleep even if I took coke, blah, 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 blah. So, whatever. You guys know your bodies.
Yeah.
Whatever. I claim whatever you want. Try it all. But I just go for specific terpene profiles. And then I go for dispensaries in my area that I know are triple tested. It costs more. It's like shopping at the Whole Foods for cannabis. But, when it comes to what I'm ingesting as a mother, I can't. I'd rather go without for a couple days and get the good stuff than have to compromise,
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing lately, is going to where I go is Cannabis Works, because they're they're medically
certified.
Yeah. Well, they kind of like gear towards that. That's kind of like their focus. They're medicinal focus. Like some people are recreational. You can tell the buildings are more facilities for recreation.
Yeah.
This is definitely a medicinal facility.
Nice.
And I like that a lot of their products are based because of that. Because people are they're going there with chronic ailments and they need stuff for chronic pain. And I have chronic anxiety, so I need that too. So they will have the buyers know that they're buying for people with certain ailments, and so they'll have products there, and they're always willing to sit there and let you smell the terpenes and help you out. And they have a terpene profile chart so that you can look for what you're looking for. So
what's the name of this place?
It's called Cannabis Works with a K, and it's in Orange County in Santa Ana, Costa Mesa area. But it's it's worth the drive for me. It's a little bit further than the other shops are, but I'd rather know that I'm getting a really high quality product with really enthusiastic staff. They really enjoy their job. One of them is a sommelier for terpenes. He knows all that. So
doesn't surprise me. It's a real job.
Yeah, it really is. When he said that, I'm like, shit, you totally could have been doing that.
Yeah, I chose to take a different direction, but I'm still curious about it.
Yeah.
So is this what you brought today from there as well?
So yeah, this is from there as well. We did terpene testing. I'm going to do a video actually next week live and show people how to do it.
Can I smell?
Yeah, you may. For myself, that's what I was feeling that day. It immediately made my mouth go. So depending on when you smell your cannabis, it's going to hit certain parts of your body. So like if you try on headband, it's going to usually when you smell headband, the terpene profile will go across your face, like a mask. Wow. Certain more sativa base will stay up in here, and hybrids will, be obviously like more in this area. So, but for me, for indicas you can't really call them indicas anymore because they're indica. Long gone are the days. Those days are gone. But the terpenes and cannabinoids that were reflecting on my body and my bioavailability, my mouth just immediately started watering. And that's when I know, like, I'm going to be relaxed. Like, I follow my nose, but then I follow my mouth too, depending on what I need, And so I just like the way it's less smelly than it was earlier this week, but it's still good. But that's where I go. I'm not big on the I need to buy like that $60 eighth. Like I don't go in there for wow factor. I go in there for like my nose will tell me. The nose knows.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I go in, because I've been consuming for a while, my refined palate can only put up with a certain threshold of quality, so I go for the second to the top tier.
Yes.
Because I'm not balling right now.
Yes, and second top tier, you will be surprised on those too.
Yeah. So they're good enough for me. They're pretty wonderful. But again, I go by my nose, and like one of the places I've been going to, like they tend to only have indicas at that level. So like what I'm rocking right now is a heavy indica, which sometimes whatever. Like I'm still happy to have a coffee and a bowl and get all my work done. But other times I do find myself lagging a little bit, and I don't know. I do wish I had a little bit more selection, but
right?
I'm not
especially in this area. I feel bad for the San Gabriel Valley. I know that you guys don't have all the resources yet that you guys deserve. I mean, trust me, I know this area would love to have some proper. I hate calling them dispensaries. There needs to be a better name for that too.
It's such a weird scene.
It is. Yeah.
So, I guess I want to talk a little bit about like the stigma and stuff too. So, like, as a person who has had to apply for jobs before, and like I'm considering going to grad school, or maybe doing other kind of business venture, there's always this fear of being like found out that I'm a cannabis user.
Oh yeah.
Even having this conversation that's going to go live, I feel it's vulnerable.
Oh, it's so vulnerable.
But in the past, I've had bosses invite me to go have beer after work. Sometimes there's business meetings, and it's even required to consume alcohol. So now that life is changing and cannabis is legal and is getting equated to beer more, that the stigma is breaking down. And so I guess I just want to, firstly, I want to say thank you to you for what you're doing, because you're just, like you said, normalizing it.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel more comfortable with who I am, because there's this, when you have to live in fear and hide all the time, it makes me start to subconsciously think I'm a bad person or down on myself, or if I'm always hiding from people that I love and respect, like how does that make me feel like about myself?
Yes.
And secondarily, like we're talking about the dispensaries, that made me think of it is, even as a presenting white hetero male, I still have PTSD from the war on drugs.
Oh my God.
You know, like living in fear that I'm always going to get busted or raided or...
I have fear of CPS to this day.
So even when I'm in dispensaries, I'm always like, even in there, like looking around, like we're like going to get rolled at any time. And I get in my car and I put my weed in the trunk because I expect to get followed. I mean, they don't have the budget to follow everybody out of the dispensary, but I have this fear like ingrained in me. And so I'm just so grateful that it's transitioning to being more accepted, even as my relationship to the plant ebbs and flows. And I'm not a hardcore advocate or a big time stoner like I used to be, but I still have it as a modality for being in this world that lets me feel more connected to myself or the earth, or it heals me and helps me, but sometimes I do use it recreational as well. And whatever the reason, I should be, the master of my own consciousness. Yeah. So I'm really grateful that you're doing this work.
Thank you. Thank you for recognizing it like that. I never thought about that for the people that, want it more normalized. And I didn't realize that I was also making that impact too for their jobs and for their daily life too.
Yeah, we talked about how we just mentioned the drug testing thing. Like they're changing how they do that a little bit. But I mean, you must know because you're the mommy Jane. You're if anything destigmatizing it for mothers and parents and adults, and you have open conversations with your children about it to some degree. And
yeah, absolutely. They know, I smoke outside. I do not consume in front of my children. They've seen me vape before, but I don't really vape that often. I really am an old school flower smoker. I like edibles too, but I have a high tolerance for edibles. So I would have to eat an entire pack of the new brands that they make now. And they're always so full of sugar. So that's kind of a bummer too. So I really stick to flower most of the time for medication. And I come out smelling like cannabis and I don't try and hide it. I know, I always wonder oh my God, are my kids embarrassed that we're going to roll into the pool or in the elevator and mom smells like Snoop Dogg. But, my youngest loves the smell. She'll point it out in public. It smells like cannabis. Oh my God, it smells like cannabis. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I smelled really strong weed before I ever smelled a skunk. So the first time I smelled a skunk, I was like, "Ooh, what's that?" And everybody else is retching around me. I'm like, "Oh, what are you guys so sick about? This smells awesome."
Oh my gosh! I always thought my aunt had a skunk problem in her house growing up. Unbeknownst to myself, they were harvesting and the closets and everything. But yeah, that's such a great story. I love that you said that. Oh my gosh!
On your latest YouTube video, you reviewed this really cool case that had a lock on it. What do you do to secure?
I almost brought that today. I should have.
I was kind of hoping you.
Okay, I'll bring it. I'll bring it next time.
And you're running a contest right now. Show me your stash. And
yes, this all goes back to the show, you guys. We're trying to create a show right now. Well, we have created a show. What do we mean? We tried. We created. Sharon created the show. We executed it for her. It's called "What's in Your Stash," based off of her article that she writes, a series in High Times in which I was featured in.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So essentially, she chose me as the host because she said, "Oh my God, I can't imagine anybody else doing this but you." And it's true because I started the Instagram interviewing people in the neighborhood. That's how it all got started. I figured I can't be the only one that can benefit from this plant. So I started interviewing people live online and it spread from there. So essentially that's what this is in a television form where I leave for the day and then I go and it's going to be like MTV Cribs, but for cannabis. So I'll knock on Seth Rogen's door and be like, "Hey Seth, let's go see what's in your stash." And then he shows us what's in his stash and his fancy vintage collection of his pipes. And, you start to know either the celebrity or the producer. We'll do people that produce cannabis in the industry too, because those are, like I said, we see those people as celebrities in our own right in our industry. So we'll go to places like them too, for instance, I was mentioning Papa Barkley earlier, go to the president or CEO of their house and see how they medicate, how they use it. So it's an entertaining piece because you're seeing somebody that you're curious about, but then you're also learning why they use it. Mm-hmm. So it's an education. Once again, goes back to education. So education and entertainment, that's going to be how I'm going to be balancing my cannabis career.
I love it.
Thank you.
People it's really easy to point the finger and call people names or point out all the stereotypes about the downsides. So to bring an educational aspect is hugely important.
Yeah. Now that I have a motive. Not like I didn't have a motive before, but when I got the manager, she was like, what's your 5-year plan? Like, what do you want to do with this? And I'm like, fuck, I don't have like a 5-day plan. Like, I didn't even anticipate any of this, you know? And everyone's like, do you have goals for your followers every month? I'm like, no, I was never that person that was like, and you need to follow me to win this contest. It was like, hey, just enter this contest and win. Like, I just want people, if you want to follow me, follow me. I don't want to hold anyone's gun to their head and be like, you must follow me. Follow me because you want to. And if you stop, then there was a reason, and we're not meant to be in the vortex anymore. And that's fine too. I'll collect more people along the way. But the people that have been there for a long time, like, these ride or dies, these old school neighbors of mine are just, we've gone through so much together, and they mean so much to me that and the new people too that are coming in are so cool because they're so excited to stumble upon this, you know, and it's a phenomenon. We're a great little connection, we're a great community, and everyone helps each other out immensely. Like, I feel like out of all the communities, I've only had to deal with one part of bullying. One. That's it, from a stranger. One was my family members, but I just blocked them. But like one stranger,
yeah,
that's nothing for 2.5 years of Instagram. That's impressive. Yeah. So like I said, I believe it's the intention, though. I have a lot of intention with what I'm doing, and maybe I didn't have like a motive at first. The motive was to get the word out, but like now I have like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to travel and educate people and meet people in person. You know, maybe do a TED Talk one day. Who knows? Like I'm open for anything. You know, I'm not limiting myself to anything at this point because I've already superseded my expectations. I flew on a jet this year to Northern California to talk on raw cannabis, and I fucking swear I never thought I would have seen something like that happen in my lifetime.
Talk about that. What did you go to?
A company requested that I talk to a bunch of buyers to kind of educate them on raw cannabis. Not too many people know about the benefits of, full spectrum cannabis, and raw cannabis too, actually, because they're both beneficial. You know, there's a time and a place for everything. I don't think we should be taking raw cannabis every day because that's like taking your entire medicine cabinet all the time. And like, you know, I'm just wondering how good that can be for us all the time. But I feel like maybe once a week we put it in our smoothies or our salads, or maybe a couple times a week. But there's a lot of, like, I would say cannabis is the biggest superfood that we don't talk about. It has the exact ratio of omega-3s and 6s that humans need to thrive already built in the hemp seeds. The roots are edible and have benefits to it too. So there's not a part of this plant that isn't beneficial to us. It's in my, like I said, the biggest superfood that no one talks about. Yeah. It's a function food.
Absolutely. Do you have any recipe tips? Because in the past, yes. I find that it tastes like a spicy oregano.
It does have a spicy oregano taste.
And people try to put it in sweets, and I'm like, you know, I'm grateful for the medicinal effects of this thing, but you're not really passing anything.
I would use no more than 5 leaves at a time for smoothies. That way, you're not going to have too much of a pungent taste. Acai is like really strong for me. I feel like that takes over anything. Like I hide that with. For all my kids, like I put acai with everything because I can put carrots and spinach and kale. They won't taste a thing. So I personally like it like that. I really enjoy the nuttiness. I include it in a tabbouleh salad.
The nuttiness of the seeds.
Well, there's like a little bit of nuttiness to the leaf too. It's a spicy nut. I think so.
It's a spiciness.
Yeah. But just like a couple leaves in like a tabbouleh salad, or like a leaf, just one leaf maybe on a regular salad, and once it's diced up, you know, I just don't go crazy because it's very strong. It's very strong. Yeah. But maybe make an herb butter even. That'd probably be a fun thing too. But just be careful if you guys do make a smoothies. Just remember, you have raw cannabis. If you have like a mega bullet, NutriBullet thing, that compound is so sensitive. The THCA, that acid, that acidic molecule can turn to THC so fast. So THCA is non-psychoactive. It's a precursor to THC, but it's such a volatile molecule that if too much heat happens, that A will detach and it'll become THC, and all of a sudden you'll have a highly psychoactive smoothie.
Oh, wow.
So, hey, maybe you want that too. Throw some mangoes in and get that myrcene going and keep on chugging, but buyer beware. Yeah, buyer beware.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't want to give that to your kids.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so backing it up a little bit, the lock review. The review.
Oh yeah, the Rhino Stash Logic's Rhino. Oh god, that's a bag. That's such a gorgeous bag.
Such a good bag
for men and women.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed watching that review.
Thank you.
But it made me think because of the lock on it. I know that you got off of Facebook because you were getting heckled or just not having a good time. I mean, you're still on there. You're updating.
We're back on.
But it's not really personal. It's more like you're
it's my mommy Jane stuff. Yeah, I won't go back on personally probably for forever.
Yeah. So in terms of like the stigma? Like, what kind of like shaming or problems did you receive from people you knew or didn't know?
Well, my family members were convinced that you absolutely could not have a career advocating for cannabis. And it's so ironic because they are card-carrying cannabis holders. But, you know, self-limiting beliefs. And those are not going to be my self-limiting beliefs. I'm not going to attach to that. And so I had to detach.
Do you think it's generational?
Well, not necessarily, because her daughter also agreed as well. She thought it wasn't a great influence as a mother to be advocating for stuff like that. She also thought I'd lost too much weight. Listen, you get to a point where your weight is just your weight. You don't get to control much of it. You guys, like, cannabis, unbeknownst maybe to a lot of you, actually regulates your body very well. It's an anti-diabetic. There's so many benefits to it, and just CBD alone actually can help with diabetes. So my body is regulated by cannabis now. It's not even like I'm trying to.
Is CBD anti-inflammatory?
Yes.
And so I know inflammation is one of the hugest causes of so many different problems.
Yes.
I was getting really into grounding for a while. When you touch the ground barefoot, or sometimes people will hook a blanket up to a wire that goes into the ground out your window, and you get the electrons from the earth, and it balances out your
I believe in that.
Diminishes your free radicals,
Yeah.
and the scientific studies they've done have shown dramatic decreases in inflammation, and that goes on to help so many different problems in your body. So
Damn, that's impressive.
Yeah, I haven't done that much research on the new cannabis products, which is why I'm so glad to have you here. But yeah, to know that it decreases inflammation too.
It does decrease inflammation. It has a lot of benefits, and that's why I was really surprised that my family wouldn't be as supportive as they probably. I really expected them to be more supportive because they're from the Bay Area. And just like, I mean, I would say they're pretty liberal for the most part, but they were just not a big fan of what I was doing. And it was like a choice. Like, do I continue to do this, or do I feed into like my family? But I got to the point where I started taking care of myself in therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy. And once you start to realize, like, you start to see where the roots are of all those problems, and it's like, I don't need to like participate in this.
Yeah.
So I've held back, you guys. I've estranged myself a lot from my family, and I know they're not very happy with that decision that I made, but they inadvertently pushed me away with the whole career thing.
Have they changed their views at all now that you've had massive success?
Yes.
And came out
Oh God, they're trying very hard to get back into my life right now, and they're like, "Oh, we should just all forgive each other." And it's like, man, until the next thing, and then it's going to happen again, and I'll be even bigger. And what are you going to try and take me down at that point? So it kind of scares me. I hate to say it, but I have a lot of PTSD from the way I've been treated. I have a lot of, I've had real trauma from having guns held to my head and being held hostage, but then I have trauma from like how I've been treated, and I just don't I have trust issues,
Yeah, I do know.
So
I know how that
I don't
goes.
trust that they're going to stay to their word, and yeah, maybe you're good for another couple 6 months, but I don't want to jeopardize my relationship with my children, and my career, because they're volatile, they're unhappy, they're not taking care of themselves mentally, physically, all of the above. So it's just toxic, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
And you guys do not, just because people are your family does not mean that you need to be in contact with them. You can have your own life, and you can create your own family, and family is relative, if you ask me.
I definitely.
No pun intended. Oh!
I appreciate the sentiment. And I think we all experience our own inner doubt, and we have to overcome that. And,
Hell yeah.
And when other people express their doubt, it can compound our own doubt, right?
Yeah.
And so we have these threshold guardians we have to overcome that are internal, and the external world is a reflection of our internal world, and so we just don't need to amplify that doubt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel. So I'm very conscious of what I keep in my space now. I limit unfortunately, I have to limit my contact with my friends on a daily basis, because if I don't take care of myself, my job is a very emotionally, physically draining job. I'm healing people. As an empath, I'm giving a lot of energy on a day-to-day basis. So I before would be like on top of everything and trying to like spread myself to thin and FaceTime this person and reach out to this person. And I was like, holy shit, where's my time? Like, I forgot about me and where I was, and I like came unglued this year a few times. Once in December, and then once like around summertime. And it's just hard to like find that balance, even in my own space. Like I preach consciousness all the time. I meditate daily. I really meditate daily, and I still have upsets where I'm like feel a little like out of line.
What do you do to help reinforce emotional and energetic boundaries?
You know, I
Other than telling people no, I can't respond right now.
well, honestly, what
which
I
is
did,
hugely helpful.
it really, I had a girlfriend who wanted to see me on Labor Day early. My husband had to edit, and she said, "Why don't you just drive out early?" And I had been driving all week, all over to like Ontario, to LA, and I looked at the text message and I was like, right now my self-care is not driving early. My self-care is not driving today. And that's the way I see it. It's you have to set those boundaries with your friends, or they'll see it as like, oh, she just doesn't want to see me, or blah, blah. Whatever their opinion, they're going to be held up in their own weird quantums, whatever. But you can't let that affect you. And you just tell them why. You give them your why. Just give people your why. I've been giving people my why lately. Someone said, can you FaceTime right now? It's like, if I could, I would have been FaceTiming you. That's the thing, is like, you guys, when I have the time, I will reach out. And that's the thing, is people need to know, like, even when I'm not around, I'm always thinking about the people that I care about and I love. And I also make that very parent when I do connect to people again, like, just so you know, I have been thinking about you, and I do think about you often. And I think if we cultivate that with our friends, then they'll have an understanding that we should allow that space to be ourselves and to just live, like, let people live.
Nice. Have your friends responded well to your intentional boundaries? Some people are turned off by that.
People are definitely turned off by it. I lost a few followers from it also, because I had followers that I just stopped reaching out on DMs, and I can't keep up with direct messages. You guys, people are so funny, because until they see them in person, here, I'll show you, for instance. No one believes the severity of it. Everyone's like, oh, everyone gets DMs, everyone gets a lot of messages all the time. But here, you guys are listening to me rifle through my purse. Maybe oh, my phone's right. It was blocked by the microphone. But it's like on a daily basis. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you already know I have a lot of interaction. I have a lot of like, people talk a lot. We like to talk. Yeah. But this is like primary. This was in the last 24 hours. Look at this. Look at that. I didn't even touch it. I didn't even touch it. You watched it all just go.
Are they and that's a second brief comments, or are people trying to really have like epic conversations with you?
Both. All of the above.
Pouring their hearts out?
Yeah, all of the above. It's everything. It's everything. And then these are like, I haven't even gotten to the requests yet, because those are people that I don't even follow yet. So I can't even keep up with my work. So to even keep up with my family life and to keep up with my friend life, it's like, oh my God, it's so overwhelming. That's why I say, as an empath, it's hard for me. I have to meditate sometimes 2-3 times a day, because I need it. I'll stop. I'll like just stop everything. And I call it stop, drop, and meditate, because it gets so overwhelming, and people are always thinking that they're the only one reaching out. Like, oh, I just need to talk to you real fast. I just need 5 minutes. Like, it's never just 5 minutes.
That's such an appropriate title, because you're on fire and you got to put out the flames.
Right? So that's why another thing, I think the e-education will help, because it'll allow me to answer those questions that pop up in the direct messages. That way they're still feeling connected to me. And it's not, maybe I can't connect one-on-one, but I will eventually be able to tour, and I will be able to move on. But yeah, it's really difficult, especially the friends that have known me before the Mommy Jane. They're like, what happened? But I'm following my dream. For 5 years, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was the best stay-at-home mom ever. I had the like designer lunches all like perfectly for them. I had all the birthday parties, all the meticulous bullshit that like you have all the time for when you are a stay-at-home mom. I was a Pinterest mom. And I just realized one day that, like, that's not all who I am.
Yeah.
So let me just live. You guys had me for a long time. Now it's my turn to have me.
Yeah. Well, you got a manager. It sounds like you're going to need an assistant pretty soon.
Yeah, that's true. I know. She's already there. She's like graphic designer, assistant. I know. I'm getting there. It's so weird even saying those things. It's growth. It's growth.
It's an operation. Like, a lot of people who do podcasting outsource the editing. Like,
I don't blame them, because that's another time-consuming thing too. Yeah,
I follow a lot of the threads, like podcasters just having informal discussions amongst themselves. And one of the questions is, what takes you the most time in your process? And some people it's scheduling, some people it's doing the show notes, but for most people it's editing.
Damn, that's why I never made one. Everyone's like, when's your podcast coming out? I'm like, I don't have time to text my friends. I'm not going to fucking start a podcast. I will be the guest to every podcast, but no, I'd rather just, I'm just this month, I've really started to say more no to everybody and just really focus on my family. Because I was so career focused over summer. My husband and I were like on fire. And then I was like, oh shit, your family's he needs you too. So
Yeah.
now that school's started, I'm like back on the family train. As I was saying, I definitely want to see your sister's daughter's soccer games this summer or this autumn too. So like I'm going to start to use my time, more efficiently with friends and family, because I feel like my career's already doing its thing. Not that it's like on it self-pilot mode, but now that Naughty is in my life, I can just navigate, and have more balance.
Yeah, there's momentum.
There's momentum, exactly. So that's my focus, is get back to the friends that I want to connect with, because, there's friends that, I'm okay that are like kind of falling off to the wayside too. It's like, whatever, like, it is what it is. Like, were you ever really that close to that person? Those things you start to ask yourself, like, why were you friends with them to begin with? So I don't chase people anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't chase jobs. The only thing I chase is my fucking dream. And that's it. I don't even chase my kids anymore. I don't own my kids. My kids are going to make their own mistakes. I saw this older woman. I forget what country she was in. It was subtitles, and we were watching this Netflix special on like international foods. And she goes, I don't give my kids advice. They don't even listen to me anyway. I just let them live. I was like, yeah, that's how I want to parent. Yeah, really, obviously I'm not going to free range 100%, but like, why do we give people advice? Who are we to judge? Let them make their own fucking mistakes, because they're going to anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm like detaching from my kids, but also simultaneously reattaching to them. It's a very odd balance I'm trying to create right now.
Yeah, it's such an interesting balance.
Yeah, because our kids are not ours. We always possess our kids. We possess who we think they should be. We possess how we think they should dress and stuff. And like,
and then they rebel. And then so whatever you try to tell them to do the most,
they're going to do it anyway.
They do the opposite of, yeah.
So Hazel went to school yesterday or the other day with one space bun in, and the rest of her hair was down. And I'm like, normally in the past I'd been like, you need 2 space buns? Because what kind of mom am I going to look like with you having hair like that going to school? No, girl, you want one right here? Okay. Is there anything else you want? Do you need blue lipstick? I'll give it to you. So
your kids have some wicked style. That's
I'm letting them be like, I'm letting them live.
Nice. That's so much fun.
Yeah.
So I want to say 2 things. I want to back it up a second about the importance of saying no. So I myself kind of grew up I'm the eldest child, and grew up in a single parent household. So I always felt a lot of responsibility. I'm very empathetic, and I always felt like I always had to say yes to everything. And it was such a huge shift in my life when I moved towards self-care. My therapist reinforced me that it was okay to say no.
Yes, you can detach from people, you can detox from people.
Yeah, and it gave me the space. It opened up the space for me to be with myself in a way that I had never given myself before. Right?
Oh gosh, I love hearing this right now.
Yeah. So the power of saying no lovingly towards yourself and lovingly towards the other person,
mm-hmm.
like, because when you learn to say yes your whole life, you think saying no makes you a jerk or a bad person or something wrong with you for taking care of yourself. But it's the same shit they say on the airplane: put your own mask on first, right?
Yes.
So saying no is a form of putting your own air mask on.
It is. We have a phrase in my house. It's called "respect the no."
Oh.
And sometimes I don't want to be cuddling. I'm like, you guys, just not right now. And if it doesn't mean I don't love them. Sometimes my kids, they'll be like, Sissy doesn't want me to blah, blah, blah. And I go, then respect it. Respect the no. Why do you want her to play with you if she's not in that mood? Like, then she's not going to have her intention in there. Then it's not going to be a fun experience for either of you. So respect the no, even if it's on that scale or this scale or that. But, even if you're not in the mood you don't want to eat the spinach tonight? Okay. Don't worry. It's okay. I'm just going to respect that no, because I don't want to force anybody to do anything in life. We force so much. We get forced to do so many things. We feel forced to do things. And I read this book called Power versus Force this year, and it really changed my life. And I just don't want that force. Yeah. I want the power without the force.
I like that.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to say was, because we used the word balance.
Oh, yes.
And so I think it kind of lines up with respecting the no. Before we started recording, we were talking about sensitivity.
Oh, God, yes. I'm glad we're getting
And so
this.
maybe setting boundaries and saying no is kind of aligned with this sensitivity. So we had mentioned before we started recording that you're feeling an increase in sensitivity, I think you said, to sounds, mm-hmm. right? And so as I'm getting older, I'm feeling an increased sensitivity too. I don't know. So I'm a Pisces, and I've got fish swimming in opposite directions. So life is filled with paradoxes. Maybe because of my sign, I notice them more. But so I'm simultaneously growing more comfortable, more able to let that shit go, and simultaneously getting more neurotic and sensitive.
Yes.
So it's like I'm identifying more with the theater than the screen of that my life is being projected on. But it's really funny to sit in the bleachers and watch the neuroses calcify on the screen. So I'm less tied to them, but they seem to be solidifying. And I don't know if that's my practice gone askewed or whatnot, but I'm like, when a helicopter flies overhead, I feel like I'm in a war zone, or like when a loud truck goes by, like I just want to like dive into a hole. You know, you complimented me on the clearing out of this room, but it was kind of a reaction to living with the children.
Yeah.
You know, like I would never ask them to change. And in saying that, children are loud, so it's been increasingly kind of getting to me. So I needed some more simplicity in the room.
Yeah.
So sound, sight, lights. I'm getting more sensitive to bright lights or flashing lights or too many lights.
Those yellow glasses you saw me come in, I wear them indoors a lot because of it now. Because I feel the same way. Because that way, people are like, why is she wearing those glasses? But it's like, it's yellow, so I can get away with wearing them inside. But it really is. It's for sensitivity to everything else that's around me. I put my headphones in sometime, and I don't even have music playing because I just want to have
I got the earbuds that like seal into your ear, make the hard seal.
Keep it quieter. Yeah.
And so something I've noticed, as we can hear on the microphone right now, a car driving by, we can hear, or a plane or whatever, picking it up. So I've been getting more sensitive towards noise, and then I went and bought these microphones, and I'm like now actually trying to find a quiet place to do a recording, and I'm realizing, holy shit, like there is no quiet space. I mean, even when you get really quiet, then you start to hear your own bodily noises. So there's no such thing as silence. They made this room where it's like the lowest level of decibels possible, or that they could recreate, and you can only stay in there for a short amount of time before you kind of start to go crazy, because you start to hear the liquids moving through your body. So you can't actually have it too quiet, but I'd like the happy medium where it feels like I'm in silence.
I can see why people get older and they go out to cabins and they live out there and they die out there. I'm like, oh, I could see the appealingness of looking at a lake every night.
Well, before I moved back to the city to go to school and be an uncle, I was living like kind of out in the woods on a mountain, kind of helping somebody on their property. That was it. You know, our nearest neighbor was like a mile around the bend or whatever, and I would love to go back to that. As I get older, I mean, I was born in Brooklyn and grew up in LA, so I've been in cities the better part of my life, and as I get older, I want more and more quiet. Yeah. The other one that I'm really having a hard time with is fragrances. So, like, I know, like, if you go to a yoga class, they're like, oh, don't put on perfume because you're in a closed room.
Ugh, fragrance has always bothered me.
But you know what? The one that's really getting to me, and I don't want to just be crabby old man complaining here, is fucking dryer sheets. You just
use aluminum balls, you guys. That's what I do.
But, I'm on a city block, and so I've got neighbors on all sides of me. So sometimes, like, I'll do yoga out on the patio in my yard and then just get, like, the waft of my neighbors'
down the alley,
dryer sheets, like, right over the wall. And I walk my dog, and I don't know, something about that artificial dryer sheety smell. I don't know. It's so pervasive.
It is. It's really pungent. It really is. It's like no other smell, and it's thick in the air, almost like a fog.
Yeah.
So I can understand how you would.
I mean, I feel like a huge hypocrite after I told you the story of how I love skunks, and now I'm sitting here shitting on dryer sheets.
To each their own. I love skunks too. I'd rather smell a skunk than a dryer sheet. Also.
Oh man.
Yeah, I use aluminum balls for that reason.
Yeah.
Like you just roll up aluminum foil.
What does that do?
That's what I use for static.
Oh.
Yeah, and I rinse it. Like I'll use aluminum foil that I already used for another food, but I'll rinse it before I'll cover a watermelon. I won't do like beef
barbecue.
Yeah, but I'll do like watermelon, rinse it, and then roll it inward with itself so that the outside is like the new fresh stuff that wasn't touched. And then I don't keep it in there wet, obviously, but you go out and you roll it in a ball after it's dry, and then you put it in your dryer sheet. Last couple months.
So that reduces the static. But what about the softening of the fabric?
Oh, well.
Is that even a thing?
I use vinegar in my wash in the beginning. So I pour it into the fabric softener section, maybe a quarter cup about. I just do like a joop with my hand. And that leaves my clothes pretty soft. And then if you do want smells, I use eucalyptus oil, essential oil, into my clothes. You can use a lavender. You can use whatever you want. But I just like the way eucalyptus smells. It's not something that's really pungent. If you use a couple drops and then the dryer just goes with the aluminum foil, and it's like...
All right.
That's what I do. I don't know.
I
didn't Google it, so I don't know if it's safe, but it works for me.
Yeah. So why do you think we're getting sensitive as we get older?
Well, the thing is our sensitivity have to do with us getting older? Does it have to do with evolution? Or does it have to do with our spiritual awakening? Those are my three questions.
So I would say I'm possibly getting more refined in my overall awareness as I continue to meditate, continue to remain open to new experiences. I definitely, since I quit drinking alcohol, my life has become more and more open. My beliefs have become less and less solidified. Mm-hmm. And, I've done some of these like meditation retreats where you're doing 10 days in silence. When you come out of that, you're like, oh my God, super sensitive. And so every time I do one of those, the well of sensitivity goes a little deeper. And you come out and you readjust. But so I think it's maybe in part due to that. But that is also, like I said, coupled with the paradox of being more accepting and more open. And I can find myself in more provocative situations remaining calm.
Yes, that's true too.
So it's why the difference is growing on both ends.
Damn.
The spectrum is widening itself. Yeah.
The drum.
the dumbaroo. Yeah, the shape of the toroid. Infinite expansion until the point of contraction. Yeah, that's the shape of our magnetic field and possibly the shape of the universe. Pretty powerful.
And I saw it last night, you guys.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful to have Anthony because he is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this sort of stuff. I know that if I ever have a question, I can always go to you for it. It's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm in college right now. I've made my concentration Asian studies and contemplative practices.
Oh
so
my
it's
gosh.
mostly Buddhism and Hinduism, but just kind of opening up to contemplative traditions and people exploring the mind.
We need more contemplative traditions in America.
Yeah, and they're working their way in for sure. And like you do TM, transcendental meditation, right?
I didn't mean to, but I have been getting into.
Into that?
Yeah, because it suggests I have Insight Timer as an app, and they also have YouTube, and YouTube will have once you watch one, the other thing goes on. And so last night it was like a 7th dimension, like go through all 7 dimensions. That's what it was last night. And I was like, I can handle this. And then like about halfway through, I was like, I gotta get out of this. I'm not ready for this. So yeah, it really just depends on like, I don't know. It's so crazy because I've talked to you about this before. Like I battle with myself with my knowledge versus like, do I need to know? Wanting to know and needing to know. Wanting to know and needing to know.
Well, I guess the question is, what are you trying to know? So, in my pursuit of knowledge, I've realized that accumulating knowledge is just like accumulating anything. And I don't need more content. Like, I don't need more information.
Damn.
And that the knowing of the universe is in every cell in my body. Like, the infinite knowing.
Is already there.
The knowingness, right? Like, we meditate to get quiet so that inner knowing can come up. Right? You don't need to bog it down with more data. You get quiet and the universe speaks through you. I think that's a manifestation of you following your dream and me doing this podcast. It's letting the flow move through you rather than trying to harangue it and bang it into place the way you have intellectually thought it should be, right?
Don't force it. I actually heard an amazing idea the other day. Someone said, stop faking it till you make it, because you're saying to yourself, you're faking it. That's your body. We have to be careful with our words and what we choose and how we speak. When you're saying that you're faking till you're making it, you're not being your authentic self every time. So just make it. Don't fake it.
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah.
So what other practices do you do for your wellness?
Okay, my wellness. Well, I mean, we can just even talk about my daily routine.
Sure.
Chanting, I've been also getting into too. Sounds really big on me. I'm very big on binaural beats. So I figured if I was chanting too, it could help heal even more. You know what I mean? I feel like why not go from within, not just hear auditory. You can just keep it going. So, chanting with the ahs in the morning, ohms at night, CBD upon rising. That's huge for me because if I know if I don't take my CBD, I'll start to spin and my practice for meditation won't be as successful. It'll still get done, but I feel like it's like a help for me. Like it's like a helping hand for me to really get into the space that I need to. I'm a type A person, high energy, probably have a lot of prana in me like already, you know, so I just feel like I need to balance that from the get-go. very big on cognitive behavioral therapy and how I talk to myself. And once I start to get those scary thoughts or whatever, how do I turn it around, or how do I bring it back to like where I need to be, create that awareness at all times. I also make sure that I drink a lot of water. But I like I said, I'm curious to the fact that we're getting more into psychedelics. I'm open into microdosing, more mushrooms. I'm hope that we do more research with LSD. I hope that we start to use medicine in the way that we can really do some phenomenal stuff when it comes to learning about our whys. And I mean, for me, dreams are like the most unresearched thing on the planet. Like, I feel like there needs to be a whole university of just dreams. Maybe there is, but I feel like there's so much more we need to learn every day when we go out and we die and we come back all the time. So I want to incorporate that into my practice as well. But I always meditate for at least 15 minutes a day. I love to break it up into small sessions. I mean, if I have time, I'll do a long hour one. Sometimes I'm really just needing it. I'll do the hour, but I feel like we make excuses on why we can't meditate. But I meditate even when I'm doing laundry. I'm like a believer that you can meditate while standing up. So
now, meditate is a very open word with millions of different meanings.
Yeah.
So when you're saying you meditate throughout the day, are you doing various techniques?
Yeah. They all differentiate depending on where I'm at. So I'll do ones where my preferred method for meditating is laying down. I feel too much physically sitting up, and I'm focusing too much. Oh, my neck is this and my butt this. Like when I really want to just like let go, I just lay down.
You don't have trouble falling asleep?
If I do fall asleep, I feel like I needed it. Yeah. And it's never for like a long time, maybe like 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, whoa, shit. Like, and then I also feel like most of the time I'm doing guided meditations, most of the time, not recently, but most of the time in the past, I would do more guided meditation. So I figured if I fell asleep, especially during the guided, I would still receive the messages regardless. So
are the guided ones you're doing visualizations like the one you did last night?
It all varies. I really just do because I never know. I don't want to limit myself because I might find something along the way that I'm like, holy shit, this is really cool. Like, I want to do more of this one. But, I'm really, all day long, I'm listening to binaural beats, depending on what I really need. Like, if something's hurting, I'll go through the healing ones. If it's something for, like, before podcasts, I'll do throat chakra meditations. I love that. I taper my meditations to my needs. And I feel like it's like my medication. My meditation is my medication also. So on a daily basis, it's gonna differentiate depending on what my needs are. So just like my cannabis doses are going to be different every single day. Some days I do a lot of CBD and not much THC. Some days are high THC and I really don't CBD that much. So it's just, I feel like we should follow our heart and not feel guilty about our practice. That's really big on me. I just wanted to stop feeling the stigma with myself. I had my own stigmas that I attached, and that's why I created what I created, because I wanted to break the stigmas even with myself. Like, oh, come on, do you really need another bowl? It's like 10 o'clock in the morning. Like, I used to say stuff like that, but it's like, nope, if you want to have a bowl right now, then do it. If you're feeling frazzled after that phone call, let's do a grounding meditation. Like, I literally will just be like, I'm my own best friend. And that's it. Like, I've never really had friends. I've had great friendships, very diverse friendships, really strong, stable friendships, but I haven't had that one best friend since like 5th grade or like whatever, you know, because it was myself I needed to work on the whole time. Mm-hmm. And now I've realized that it is, and I love it. I'm like, what can we do today, girlfriend? Yeah. Like, let's do this. Let's live this life. Yeah. Yeah. So
that's great.
For those of you feeling lonely, you need to get to know yourself a little bit more.
I read this book by the controversial figure Osho, Love, Freedom, and Aloneness. And he talks about the difference between loneliness and aloneness. Damn. And you can be alone without being lonely. Yeah, that book, it says a lot of crazy things. It also taught me at the time that...
Can you tell me that name again?
I think it's called Love, Freedom, and Aloneness. Okay. I was dating a girl and she gave it to me, and it was weird because I put the book down and I was like, oh, I don't love you. Because the book points out that, like, it points out the difference between lust, like, care, appreciation, like all these things that we attribute to love. No, that's not love. Those are all like conditional qualities, you know, whether I'm going to do something for you or you're going to do something for me. But when you love a bird on the tree, you don't put it in the cage. You just love it as it is in its expression of itself. When you give something to it, you give freely, expecting nothing in return. And at that point in my life, I realized that that's not what I was doing with love. So that was tricky, but it was powerful.
I have chills and my heart broke at the same time. I was like, my body doesn't know how to feel right now. It's processing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's a tricky one. But I want to back it up, comment on a couple of things you said.
Yeah.
So binaural beats are cool. So they play like a certain frequency, which we know different frequencies have different healing properties. Go ahead. Okay. Go for it. Okay. So, like, I know we continuously discover ancient caves and temples where there's a harmonic resonance within the chamber.
No shit.
And so the harmonic resonance, I was reading about one yesterday. They found this, and the chamber resonates at the same frequency that we know is known to kill cancer cells. And so they definitely believe that that chamber was used for healing, and there's different things you can do to, now we see we can levitate small things with sound waves, and you can do amazing things.
Oh my gosh.
The power of sound to heal and transform.
Yeah, music depresses me now. Modern music really brings me down. I used to be really into like gangster rap and hip hop and rock and roll. And then I realized what rock music was and who owns rock music and who created rock music. Rockefeller, you guys, go look into that. He owns the exact decibels for rock music, and he made sure that music was only created in those decibels. Oh yes. Crazy shit.
I can only imagine destabilizing the psyche.
Right? Oh. Rock music will never be the same again, you guys.
Now I've got a horrible tangent to go on later. I've got homework to do later. Why are you sending me off on these conspiracy theory tangents?
I'm going to be nose deep in my I don't even know. I don't know where to start.
You're welcome to borrow from this library.
Oh my gosh, this is too amazing. I wouldn't even know where to start.
So on that vein of what we're talking about, meditation and whatnot. So mantric meditation. So transcendental meditation, for those who don't know, it's once you pay to take the seminar, they initiate you and give you a secret mantra. And what a mantra will do is allow the chatter of your mind to quiet down. People often have a hard time doing meditation because I can't focus. I can't focus on my breath. I have too many thoughts. Well, yeah, of course. That's what it is. But when you have a mantra, it's a little bit easier to grapple the mind because you're giving it a sound to focus on. And with TM, you do it quieter and quieter. It allows your mind to get quieter, your body to get calmer, and it can get really subtle, right? So that's the transcendental meditation method of mantra. But mantra is popular across practices. I went to a Hindu-Catholic dialogue at Loyola Marymount University over the summer.
Whoa.
And so there were representatives of both of those faiths. And what emerged as the theme was mantra practice, essentially, because they were talking about Christian contemplative prayer.
Interesting.
And there's a couple different versions of this, one of which was directly influenced by a Swami, a Catholic priest, spent time with a Hindu Swami and learned this method and even referred to it as a mantra practice. But, anytime you repeat a prayer over and over,
Yeah, that's true. I never thought about that.
So,
it is.
So spontaneously it happens often in crisis, when people are imprisoned and they just start praying to their God over and over and over. And you say the same words over and over and over until you're no longer cognitively associating with what those words mean, and your body is just in tune to the frequency of those words, and you calm down and you find that inner peace or whatever. Or like we started to talk about, you can experience negative things through meditation, because when you get quiet, it lets some of the dark stuff come up. And so, like, the running joke is retreat centers are really beautiful on the outside because when you get quiet, all that dark, ugly shit comes up.
Oh my God, that is so funny. I've never heard that, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah. So there are people exploring the negative sides of meditation. Like Willoughby Britton is one person. She's doing, I forget the name of her organization, but she's doing a lot of like proper studies, and I think she even has a hotline for people to call and report on the downsides of meditation, because it can really, if you're not prepared, for all of your deep traumas to come to the surface, you're going to freak out. So, I've known people, I think I talked about this on another podcast, where they had to go home from retreats because repressed trauma arose when they went into a small confined area to meditate and remember that they were put in a closet as a child, or just different things like that can emerge. And so, yeah, it's definitely advised that people go to a therapist and get some of the basic
clean yourself first
taken care of before you go to, say, like a 10-day meditation retreat. But I mean, for some people, jumping in like that is the way to handle it. But it's not, if you think you're a little more sensitive or you need a little bit more slow pacing to come along, it's definitely, like you said, you're working with a cognitive behavioral therapy practice.
Yeah.
And I know in my experience, it's not one modality that was the panacea, so it's a combination of getting to know my body through yoga and getting to know my mind and what its patterns are through meditation, and seeing a therapist and working with some of my behaviors and my understandings of myself and my family and my relationships and whatnot. And it's changing your diet and exercise.
Oh God, yeah, that's a huge.
And surrounding yourself with positive people and getting rid of toxicity in emotional and physical ways. And it's a whole combination, which I guess at first it sounds, maybe all the list I just said is, if somebody's in a dark place, like, that's too much, but it's baby steps.
It took me years.
For me,
yeah.
I mean, maybe we can talk a little bit about your path too, but for me, it started when I quit drinking alcohol. And as many times as I tried to better myself and help myself and learn and listen, like, I couldn't let anything good in until I let down that boundary that I was putting up by looking to avoid my problems with alcohol. And as soon as I let those walls down, I mean, because, like, you've known me since, I guess, right before I quit drinking, so you didn't know me before that, but, like, I've always, like, surrounded myself with progressive peoples, and used to do beach cleanups and go to a lot of protests, and I've dated girls who have been learning Reiki or did their yoga teacher training. So I've had all this stuff, like, in my periphery, and people are always trying to influence me to do it. But I couldn't allow any of that to heal or help me in any way until I quit drinking.
I couldn't agree more, honestly. I'm not 100% sober. I drink on some occasions here and there, but I would say I drink like 1% compared to the 100% that I was at. Like, I am on a rare case. And even then, the next day, I'm like, damn, why did I do that? Because I just feel like shit. But it's really true. Like, I went a solid year almost without alcohol last year, and it was the best year of my life. Like, seriously, I viewed alcohol differently from taking a break from it too. I look around and, like, I used to have to order an alcoholic beverage with every meal. If I was having pizza, I'd have to have a beer. If I was having steak, I'd have a glass of wine. It was like this, you had to. Of course, you're at a restaurant.
Yeah. And
I look around and almost every table nowadays has, like, families out to eat, both parents have drinks. Would you like another round, sir, ma'am? It's like we are so... Okay, this is... I as an empath, I feel energy. I feel the low vibe, obviously coming from alcohol. You guys, it's a spirit for a reason. It lets in spirits, okay? It's called spirits because they're spirits that get let in. So you feel the low vibration. And just for one example, I look at table 38, for example. It's the husband and wife. They're on their phones. They're not paying attention to the kids. The kids are barely paying attention to the family. And you have this dynamic where your family's out to eat. You're spending, what, $80 on a family meal so that you guys can wake up more tired. You're going to be probably not connecting once you get home because you're going to, whatever. One takes a shower, one reads the book, and they go to bed. But, like, I'm not saying I'm holier than thou and my relationship is the greatest. We've definitely gone through our, like, trials and tribulations. But when we both consciously decided to stop, like, drinking, we don't have alcohol in our house. I have not owned an alcohol bottle in my house in over 2 years. When I'm out and it's like a celebratory, that's when I'll have, like, a drink. So, like, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, I'll have a drink. And like I said, every time I do it, I don't like it. So I feel like my biggest changes happened the minute, like, I decided to take that extra step because it inhibits us. So table 38, they have low vibrations. Therefore, they're going to speak lowly of each other. They're not going to, like, think about the positive things all the time. It's like, it's the alcohol that's really hurting our family dynamics. I know that's, like, such a finger pointing thing, and I'm probably going to offend a lot of people by saying this, but I have alcoholism on both sides of my family. So I feel like I have a right to say both these things. It almost took my brother's life twice. So, and including myself, actually, I've definitely been to near death with alcohol poisoning, so I'm not much better myself. So as a former and current, I guess, alcoholic, recover, I don't know, alcohol is like the downfall of society. And for me, cannabis is going to be what helps us. If we can like consciously make that change and understand that we can relax just as much with a plant as we can with a glass of wine, the same like chemical profiles as Valium make you feel like physically like the same dopamine and stuff as wine. So we drink wine to feel that feeling of Valium. Why can't we also have that feeling through a plant? And that can be socially acceptable too. So, I mean, I'm not saying parents should be smoking joints at the table with the kids, but I feel like if we pulled back on the alcohol at dinner tables, and it doesn't have to be such a social aspect of our lives. It's on the end cap of every Albertsons I walk into, Vons. It's like, rosé all day and all these things like that. It's on our fashion. We glorify alcohol abuse like it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to me, but I, get such a stigma from running an Instagram for plant medicine. So it's just really backwards. I read a lot of sci-fi and fantasy growing up, and I feel like I'm literally in it now.
Yeah, absolutely. The future is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Virtual reality is still a little expensive for me. When I was a little kid, I used to read all the video game magazines, and they were talking about the virtual reality is coming, and the future is now. But now that I'm an adult, A, I don't have time, even if I did have it, but B, I can't afford it. And he's like, I can't wait for it to get a little cheaper.
Just be normalized, yeah.
Yeah. So in the last episode of this podcast, I had Tom Moritz, and he teaches Buddhist addiction recovery. And I
love that.
I mentioned that cannabis was instrumental in my recovery from alcohol, but he and I didn't get into that.
Oh,
because for some people sobriety means
100%. Yeah,
100%.
I know. I have a hard time talking about my brother because of it.
Yeah, but I guess I'd like to tease it out with you a little bit more, because this is a different kind of a conversation, embracing the aspects of cannabis. So I know that you lost 100 pounds and did so after you quit drinking, and cannabis was instrumental in that. So I'd like to hear you talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I figured, okay, so I was on a crusade of losing weight for a number of years after I had my second child. I actually gained an exorbitant amount of my weight after I had my second child, not during the pregnancy, it was after the pregnancy. Because my doctor was like, yeah, eat whatever you want. We want you need to be producing milk. And so I was eating steak and potatoes and drinking Guinness with it, because everything was supposed to help the milk. And I moved away from my friends, and I was isolated in a new town. And obviously food was therapy. So I gained a lot of weight, and, started to lose weight, and I saw some, difference here and there. However, I was still consuming alcohol nightly. So imagine you're drinking wine, you wake up to go to the gym the next day. How much are you really going to be putting forth in that effort? So, I didn't like the way it was making me feel the next day. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to see how I'm going to feel if maybe I'll smoke tonight and not do alcohol, because I would do both at the same time. And I was like, I'll just try one without the other. And I was like, fuck, I feel good. And I feel good the next day too. And then I noticed that my skin started looking really good. My face wasn't as bloated anymore. My clothes started to feel better. And I was like, wait, I'm losing weight by not drinking? This is fucking crazy. So that's when I realized you can only be so healthy if you have this cog in your wheel that's or actually a wrench, I should say. It can't even be a cog. It's this wrench in your wheel that's inhibiting you from getting those cogs moving. And once I got that wrench out and replaced it with something that was going to benefit me, because cannabis also had that same effect where I was relaxed at night, where I could let down that stress, where I could be more intimate with my husband. It was all those things that was enabling me in a good way, instead of with alcohol, I was so short with my kids the next day. With alcohol, I was eating bad food the next day to make up for the fact that I wasn't feeling great. Let me go get a breakfast burrito because I feel like shit. It was just this one bad choice after another that alcohol was connecting me to. So, I really just had to eradicate it out of my life. And I did. My husband felt the same way. He quit alcohol while I was pregnant with Hazel. So when he started drinking again, when I could drink again, he was like, I'm getting headaches. I feel like shit. I don't like this. This isn't even relaxing anymore. And so he was realizing it wasn't fun. And then once I finally got him on to cannabis, that's all we do now at night. When people open up a crack of beer, we wait for our kids to go to bed and we vape and watch TV, or I smoke flower. He likes to vape. That's his thing. So it's now connected us. There was a time where we were definitely distant, when I was at my heaviest and I wasn't very happy and I wasn't spiritually connected with self. And I wasn't doing things that were serving me or my community. I was definitely not our relationship wasn't great, and we had to reel that back in too. And I hate to say this, but but cannabis brought us closer together. Actually, I don't hate to say it. I'm really grateful. I'm grateful. Cannabis brought us closer together.
Yeah.
And it brought me closer to my kids because I'm, you know, you get that creative mode, like, let's play Play-Doh and let's make monsters out of it. Like, you know, you just get to do all these fun things you never would have done before. Maybe you would have still, but just more vigor. I have more vigor with cannabis than I did with alcohol. Alcohol took my vigor away. I feel like I've also regained youth. I feel like I've aged less, like, in the years since I've stopped drinking. And I just feel overall just a great well-being. You can't be as depressed when you're not doing depressing shit.
That's for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my recovery, right? I just started getting involved in everything. So that's when I met you. I guess I started working at that restaurant. I got a second restaurant job. I started volunteering. I was just like,
He was on fire, guys.
helping everybody out. Like, I just had to get the ball rolling. I mean, I had all this energy that I had been channeling into drinking and just being out in the world, however that was.
You definitely get more energy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess to play the devil's advocate, what about the people who are saying you're just like a modern stoner? Because there is... You have coffee mugs with like a frazzle-haired person that says, you don't want to see me before my coffee, right? And so, like, we're allowed to drink coffee at work all day long to keep us having that.
It's also a drug.
Yeah, exactly, right? So you're allowed to moderate your consciousness. Moderate? Is that the right word? You're allowed to moderate your consciousness and alter your way of being a little bit in certain social circumstances. Do you think that cannabis is akin to a cup of coffee, or closer to like having a beer where you're actually altering your consciousness? Maybe that's not appropriate for all day, every day, or even every day. And I guess, do you take breaks?
This is a great question. Well, I probably should have prefaced this earlier that I was on a number of prescription drugs in my 20s for my disabilities, I guess you could say, because they are mental disabilities. And I feel like on some of those medications was definitely not performing my best. I probably shouldn't have been driving vehicles sometimes, you know, and because it was given to me by a doctor, it was a little different scenario. Mm-hmm. So I know my bioavailability. I know what my tolerance is. And I also know that CBD can counter if I do feel a little too stoned. I take some CBD and that actually knocks the THC molecule out.
Really?
Yeah, it's a stronger molecule than the THC. So the CB1 receptors won't be as, and CB2 receptors won't be as affected if you take CBD. It's actually an antidote.
Oh, I'm gonna stop you right there. So if somebody is having an experience where they are feeling too intoxicated,
CBD yeah.
Does that apply when you eat it as well? Because it's a different type of intoxicant that goes through your liver. It produces a different chemical than when you smoke it.
That's true. I'm glad that you know that too. I actually took I
got way too high when I ate edibles one time.
And you could have also done a CBD a dropper afterwards, and it would have been better. I took a full drop of RSO one time on accident.
What's that?
RSO is Rick Simpson oil. It's a highly concentrated oil that was created by Rick Simpson to eradicate cancer cells on his body, and people now make it and sell it. So you're actually technically supposed to have a rice grain drop of Rick Simpson oil. I took a full dropper because someone said take a drop, so I figured a drop. This is why education is so important. This is why e-education is going to be big. I'm going to do videos on even how to use a dropper properly, because when I first started using CBD, I'm like, do I use the full dropper? Do I do like a drop from the dropper? Like, what is a drop? How much is a dose? How much in the milliliters? Like, how much am I having? So I accidentally did a full thing of RSO, and my girlfriend said, immediately take this of CBD, the same exact amount. I CBD'd, and I definitely was like a little bit more higher than I normally was, because we did a crystal bowl meditation. So she's like, you might see some crazy shit. Like, you might be fine. You might go to the other dimension, but you'll be back. Don't worry. But I never got to that point. I think it's because of CBD. Yeah. She was just wondering like if I was going to like leave my body, because you can't die on certain drugs. Like, you can't OD on, I just learned this recently. You can't overdose on acid, and you cannot also overdose on cannabis. So you can get to a fucking other dimension on both those things, but you will come back. You'll come back. Yeah, so, I mean, if you do die of LSD, it's going to be for other reasons. It's not because of the LSD.
Don't jump off the building.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, you can't just, your body's not going to stop like it would if you took too much heroin, or if you took other things. Like, I'm not promoting or condoning other drug usages. I'm just letting you know comparison wise. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So I guess back to my question. Since we're talking about other drugs, like, what have you received any pushback from people who are saying that this is just another way to glorify drug use?
You know, the thing is I feel like drug use is so rampant in America at this point. Like, I feel like I feel myself, the plant is less of a threat.
Yeah.
You know, if they really look at it, if people want to call me a stoner, then so what? I feel like I've reached a point in my life where I feel like my needs are met, my children's needs are met. If that's like all I need to worry about, everybody else can think what they want about me. But I'm living a very high vibe life. My children are vibing high with me. And if it would be a different story if they were neglected, if they didn't have their needs met, if they weren't feeling fulfilled in life, but they are like at the top of their class and they're amazing friends and they're kindred spirits and kind daughters, and I'm lucky to know them. And I think my children would be a reflection of how this plant is. You know, let my family life and I'm very open on the Mommy Jane. I talk about my other account all the time and I show it, you know, I do have a life that's outside of the Mommy Jane that exists, and I am a mother. So feel free to follow me and see how I conduct business in my life on a daily basis. But I definitely feel like the way I was operating on alcohol and prescription drugs, I mean, driving hungover, that is not a fucking way to drive. So just things we need to be more conscious of, you guys. We point fingers, but like, how many of us have driven to work still half in the bag? I know I have.
Yeah.
So let's just think about that. So I'd much rather know that if I take a couple milligrams of CBD and THC throughout my day, I know where I stand, and I know that I can still be highly productive. I've grew to almost 20,000 followers organically in 2 years, and I feel like that couldn't have been done if I was sitting around with my thumb in my ass all day. So
yeah, I mean, you're also putting out an authentic vibe, and I think people definitely pick up on that for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. So we talked about a little bit of the downsides of meditation, but have you experienced any downsides of cannabis use in any way, shape, or form? Oh, yeah,
for sure, you guys. I've just recently discovered this thing called I think it's called Moose Lab. Moose Lab makes it. I don't know if it's called that. Hold on. Mouthpiece.
Is that for cooling?
This is for smoking. So you would I don't know how I would use it on this.
Not on that one.
Probably yeah. But it goes into bongs or like a vaping device, and this filter is here. So I feel like bad cannabis experiences is how much I cough. I feel like with technology these days, I know that it's a bronchial dilator. I know that people haven't died of lung cancer from it, but it's just the way that I feel. That's my downside with cannabis, is my use and the way that my lungs feel from using it. So I'm grateful for companies like that have created.
What does that do?
Filters. It filters out, like, honestly, I want you to like.
Because I saw one as I was just perusing the web, trying to do a little bit of research for this, and I saw a device that looked like that was supposed to cool the smoke.
Ooh, that's kind of cool too. Maybe
and it looked like that, and how you can apply it to nearly any device.
Okay,
but that
this
looks
was
like
white like a couple days ago.
So you're literally just filtering the smoke.
Yeah, and I don't cough as much too,
which captures some of the carcinogens.
Yeah, carcinogens, and I found out that pipes actually have 50% more germs than toilet bowl seeds.
I did wipe that down with alcohol before you came.
Either way, it's okay, Anthony. I'll smoke your pipes. But yeah, it's just something I just want to be more conscious of. But as far as like products nowadays, they make it really hard for you to have a bad experience. It's so scientifically like tested and dosed, and like you have to really be, I don't know. I feel like dabs sometimes for myself don't serve me that well too.
I had to stop doing dabs because in terms of my lungs, I just couldn't do it.
There's my downfalls. Yeah. Like dabs don't do so well for me. I'm starting to get a better use of it, like using like dab pens instead of like those. I don't think I'll ever be able to have one of those dab bongs. I don't know if I'm even saying it right. Everyone's probably screaming at their
rig.
Yeah, rig. I don't think I'm going to have a rig anytime soon. But I definitely see the medicinal value of concentrates. I love that they've taken the terpenes and put it into a concentrated form. But when it comes down to it, flower.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
All the time.
I feel you there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I definitely wanted to just play the devil's advocate for a moment.
Yeah. I used to have a lot more guilt, but now it's like, I hate to say it, I don't fucking care anymore.
Do you take breaks? Do you ever?
I did last year, and then my girlfriend said, that's your medicine, don't take breaks. And I was like, fuck, she's right. Because I had really bad stomach issues from it. If I don't smoke cannabis every day, especially the flower, if I don't smoke it, vaping it, I'll still get the burps. I start to burp, and then the burps get more frequent, and then they get I start getting stomach cramps. So I definitely have some GI issues that cannabis takes care of immensely, especially the flower. I don't know how the smoke does so well with my stomach, but if I smoke it, then But if not,
well, we know it
worse.
releases cramping. And like the Queen of England used to take it for her cramps.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So I see it as my medicine. You wouldn't go out without your, like, for those of you that have prescription drugs, would you go on vacation without your prescription drugs? Fuck no.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it. I'm going to Mexico next month on a Disney cruise, and I'm terrified because I know Disney's super critical when it comes to cannabis use and stuff. So I got to get creative, or I just have to understand.
There's so many alternatives. Like, there's pills.
I think I'm going to do chamomile even. I think I might just do chamomile. Chamomile is a great alternative for those of you that are in illegal states that are listening to this and you're like, I wish I could have this anti-inflammatory. There's actually some research being done right now that cannabis or chamomile, the whatever it is, the compounds in there are very similar to CBD with anti-inflammatory, anti-anxiety, anti-cancer perhaps. We just don't know enough stuff about plant medicine yet. And I really, like I said, I was saying earlier, I hope there's more plant medicine research and psychoactive research, because I feel like there's way more out there than we're giving these drugs credit for. I hate that there's such a stigma with drugs. I mean, and I say this, I'm pointing fingers at pharma, but even pharma has a place. But I believe that plants and pills can coexist, but it's just how, you know?
Do you ever explore Ayurveda or? I
haven't done that yet. I had a girlfriend who's really big in Ayurveda. She even wrote books. She's actually pretty famous in the whole Ayurveda thing. And she was telling me about it. And that's how I knew I was like prana, because she had me take like a test. And so I'm like, or Pitta or something like that. Is that where, something like, I don't know. It's something with the heat, and I have a lot of heat, and that's why I'm attracted. Pitta. Yeah, there it is. Pitta.
So there's the three types.
Yeah.
And Pitta's fire.
Yeah, she told me I was Pitta, a lot of Pitta in me. So like I should avoid certain foods.
Yeah, listen to you go like blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a lot of fire.
So
that's me too. I'm the air and fire element. So like I'm all like up here, and then so I need to eat more root vegetables and try to
ground yourself.
I really need to do a lot of work on being grounded. It's really easy for me to get flighty and want to do 10 things at once and not get any of them done, or just have a lot of energy and vision without having like
concrete,
my feet on the ground. So I'm actually making traction. So that's one of my
gosh, I should get into that.
It's super good. Yeah, it's
the things you made me were so delicious. And the stuff I've made afterwards that you gave me, I also enjoyed. So I should just reintroduce it again.
So I think what I like about it, and I think I heard you say something earlier about, you know, checking in with yourself day to day and seeing what you need. So yoga and Ayurveda go hand in hand. They're sister sciences. If you have trouble in your yoga practice, you might go to an Ayurvedic doctor. And if you're having trouble and you go to an Ayurvedic doctor, they might recommend some yogic practices. They're sister sciences.
Wow.
And the third one that goes is Jyotisha, the science of light, which is Vedic astrology.
What?
So the three of those go together.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, we can play around on my bookshelf when we're
okay.
done. But so you said checking in with yourself to see what you need on any given day, so you change your dosage or what strain you're using. So I think yoga is like that too. When you arrive at the mat, you check in with your body. Do I want to push myself harder today? Do I need a more restorative practice? And so in Ayurveda, the goal is balance. So if you know you're a fire type and your body type is fire, typically you're going to need more water and earth element to cool yourself and balance yourself off, but you're fluctuating day to day. There's times of the day that correspond to the different elements. There's times of the year that correspond to the different elements, and then given your health and your lifestyle, you're going to have variation from day to day too. So you're never taking one combination of plants and foods every day all day, of course. So as you learn about Ayurveda, you learn how to balance yourself out through herbs and foods, and listen to yourself more and check in. And it's just another tool for bringing balance into your life using plant medicines. And so I think
which is what
really
I'm
wonderful.
into.
Yeah.
I've really cut back on my things that don't agree with me in my age right now. Meat, I cannot digest very well. Cheese, I don't digest very well. I eat mostly vegan diet, not necessarily, and I hate to say it, I'm not doing it for the consciousness of animals. I feel like it's feasting, everyone should be, if it's on the planet and you need to survive, eat it, whatever. That's the way I feel. Sorry little animals, but for myself, I just don't like the way I feel when I eat the meat and the cheese. And maybe I should be more conscious of where it comes down to. And I'm eating a corpse, and maybe that's all going down to that. I don't know. Who knows? But I've cut back on that. So is Ayurveda something I can continue and still not have to consume a lot of meat and cheese?
Because
because like everyone's like, oh, get on keto and that stuff. I'm like, that's like all meat and cheese.
Well,
I can't
keto,
do that.
Keto, you can do it vegan. It just requires way more prep.
Yeah.
You just have to do more work and do more research, so you're knowing what you're using. Ayurveda, it's coming out of India, so some of the traditions there are vegetarian.
Okay, cool.
I don't think they have veganism, though it's growing in popularity. There's a lot of ghee and used clarified butter. When I did one Ayurvedic workshop, we did a ghee eye wash. So we made the ghee ourselves, and then we used like an eye cup. And so you put the ghee in the eye cup, and then
with the butter,
and you put it on your eye, and then you lift your head up and you open your eye, and so you have butter in your eye. Yeah. And so then you take it down and you wipe it off, and you smell like you're at the movie theater. You smell like you buttered popcorn. But it was so cooling on our eye.
No shit.
Immediately before that, we did an eye wash with like herbs and water, and that kind of was a little rough on the eye.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And then we did the one with the butter, and it was like, oh my god, it was like
soothing.
It was like cotton on your skin, but wet on your eye, and so it left you like a little blurry for like a minute or so.
Imagine, yeah.
It's dulling. It's tamasic. So it's got butter's got that dulling quality, but it felt so soothing and restorative and lovely on the eye. I couldn't recommend it strongly.
I'm open. This is crazy. I try everything once, everything in moderation.
Yeah. So ghee is a big part of the South Asian diet, and it's definitely incorporated into Ayurveda, and paneer as a form of cheese.
Yeah. Okay. Do you like paneer?
Yeah.
It's a light cheese.
Yeah.
So
and you can make it yourself.
Feta
too.
also doesn't disrupt me too much too. So like certain cheeses I'm okay, but like American diet, man, I can't hang.
It's rough. Yeah.
I can't hang with this pizza burger stuff.
In terms of using it as an application for wellness, I don't think anybody's going to tell you have to do it. You have to eat meat or cheese.
Yeah. Okay.
You follow your own rules anyway. It doesn't sound like you would listen if somebody tried to tell you that. But like, for example, like the Dalai Lama, his doctor told him he needed to start eating meat, and so like he periodically eats meat for his wellness. Or in the past, that's what.
If my doctor told me, I would still. I mean, I do, but every time I'm like, ugh, and I'm like, then my stomach hurts afterwards, and it's just, it has to be like something substantial that's like, yes, I want to eat this, But I'm not going out of my way to make it. Anymore. I always buy it like already cooked. Like I bought a thing from Trader Joe's that was like some sort of steak. I don't even know steaks very well. I can't even tell. Some sort of steak that was already cooked and seasoned, and so that the kids still have their meat and everything like that. And it was like already pre-sliced, like in little tiny slivers. So I had one of those slivers. So I gave myself a little bit of meat, but immediately had tummy troubles, so who knows? I don't know.
The hardest time I have is buying dog food, because even when I'm most of the time I'm vegetarian, but occasionally I fluctuate just to give myself some diversity. But just having to buy dog food, I don't want to be buying all this meat, and
God, I didn't even think about that.
And I guess it's not good to feed your dog chicken all the time because it's the most common one.
They want diversity too. Yeah.
So I try to change it up with as much fowl as possible, because even in my own personal practice, I feel like I don't want to cause suffering on any level, but I would like to think, maybe it's just to make myself feel better, that the smaller the brain of the creature, the smaller its capacity for suffering.
Okay, that's a very sweet thing to put.
So I don't eat cows or bison, and I definitely try to eat less pig, and I try to stick to fowl.
Yeah.
And fish.
Birds.
I'll eat a shrimp.
Oh yeah.
But
I had a good cod sandwich the other day. It was sustainable though. That's the thing, is you have to be so careful with our sourcing too.
It's so hard. So often, I'll go to the grocery store with the intention to buy meat, and even if I put it in the cart, I'll just put it back. Because
the meat I want is like $23 a pound, because I want the grass fed, the freaking humanely raised, all that stuff. But
and then still, you don't even know, and then they're like, oh, it's too much. I think. I mean, I've heard you talk about in other places, moving towards a more communal lifestyle.
Yes.
And you were talking about some retreats that you've done where you woke up and you were with other women.
Yes.
And this communal element in our life is lost. And I really think, as we're finding that mass agriculture is one of the biggest sources of harm towards the planet. We're draining our water. We're in the drought, so they're trying to build wells, which is going to cause the ground to...
Oh, God, fracking.
The ground is going to come... But not even fracking. Building wells causes the water table to to diminish, and then the ground collapses and it can no longer retain water. So building wells for mass agriculture is going to cause devastation to
Oh my gosh, this is so
to the
sad.
underground. So anyway, so the point is, I've heard it said before, and now you're hearing it more and more, that small local farms and community gardens are really a way to combat mass agriculture and feed ourselves.
Yes.
It's not that hard to do.
And it tastes so much better.
Yeah.
I can't. We had last night. We had with that steak the kale chips that I made and a sweet potato with it. And the sweet potatoes are so small because they're not like GMO pumped. And it's just, even though they were small, they were so mighty and so delicious. And it's
Nice.
just, it was nice to have. Like I'm so new to this. It's only been 4 weeks in that I've had this farm delivery, but
Oh, wow.
I really am so grateful for the opportunity to have the privilege and the ability to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So I want to transition to our last big topic.
That being said, okay.
Yeah, sure. And I want to talk about, my next guest on the podcast, this will maybe help build a wave of momentum for the arc of the show. The next guest, he is an intuitive angel communicator and Reiki healer. I've received some really powerful Reiki healing from him. So he's a professional in this aspect, but you and I are following our hearts and following our intentions and learning to listen to ourselves. So I thought, having like a normal conversation with a person who's experiencing it on the day-to-day level would be cool. So I'd like to, just talk a little bit about intention and gratitude and attitude and maybe our 2020 predictions, because I feel like we're moving in a really good direction. Mm-hmm. So I guess my background in intuition is learning to listen to it. And the more I listen to it, I can distinguish what is my thinking mind just overanalyzing and trying to figure out the best solution, and what is my heart speaking. So I'm always so curious to hear how other people navigate that field. Like, how do you work on like what to listen to? Because, for example, just in what we eat, we were just talking about food. So I listened to a podcast with Penn Jillette, the magician, and he was talking about how he gave up eating meat for health reasons, and in 60 days or whatever, when the meat-eating organisms in his gut died, he no longer had the craving for it. And we know that our gut biome controls what we want to eat. And
Yes.
so like sugar,
Intuitive eating.
if I eat sugar, like I just want more sugar, and then for days I just want more sugar. And so it's like the bacteria in your body is sending signals to your brain, and you're thinking it's your own legitimate thoughts and acting on it. So that's not your intuition. That's fucking bacteria telling you what to do. So we have to...
Because you have a brain in your freaking stomach, you guys. Don't forget that.
Yeah, so the word is viveka, like discrimination. Like, how do you discern and discriminate? So in Hinduism, the swan is known as being a master of discernment. A swan can... When milk and water are mixed together, a swan can dip its beak in and drink only the milk. It's the master of discernment. This is not real. This is like...
Yeah. Like folklore.
Yeah. But yeah, so discernment. How do we discern what to listen to and what not to? And this is an ongoing question for me. And so I'm always curious, especially if people who are obviously living from their heart. I love to hear how they approach intuition.
It's great that you brought up discernment in September. That's Virgo energy. Virgo energy is discerning. And
Nice.
so this month we are really into our intuition right now. We should all be tapping into our intuition because it's at a very high peak. Because the first 6 astrology in the calendar, Aries through Virgo, is all about I believe it's self. And then, so this is our last part of self, and then it's about to transfer over to community and others. So it's a big transition right now. This is why the last period of it, we should be really listening to ourselves more than ever. So what I do, there's a few ways that I... getting quiet, you'll get answers pretty fast. But there's also ones where you can use your own strength. This is a 2-person thing. And you'd have to use your own arm. You have your arm out. And you say, and you start off with lies at first, like, my name's Betty. And the other partner, like, you would have your hand on me to try and stop me from going up. And the strength would change dependent on if it was a true statement or a false statement. Because everything has a vibration. So my vibration will change in my body, whether I know it or not, and that'll be more true. So if you're trying to figure out how much to negotiate for, start like, oh, I want to charge 4,000, and then the arm doesn't go over, it doesn't do the drop. You got to wait for the arm to be the strongest. Once it loses its strength, or once it holds its strength the strongest, that's when it's most to be true. So when your body cannot force the hand up, that's when you're in your most true state. So if you want to ask out loud, there's a way to do it that way too. But then your person knows your questions also. So how open do you want to be with this second person that's going to know your questions out loud?
Yeah, I guess as I open to what is in the universe, I'm becoming less concerned with voicing things.
Okay.
There's some schools of thought that say you should really keep it to yourself, keep it personal.
Yeah.
And we know in terms of taking action, you get the dopamine when you tell somebody you're going to do something.
Oh,
so
wow.
in terms of completing your actions, you shouldn't tell people about your goals, because when they give you like a pat on the back, oh, that's great, then you already get the reward.
Damn.
So then you're like, oh, I've already got the reward, and subconsciously,
this is wonderful.
Yeah, you won't even fulfill the task because you've told somebody you're going to do it. But in terms of manifesting things in the universe, and manifesting is a triggering word. So in terms of creating your reality, however that can be, I'm less concerned with sharing it, because I believe in the universe that much more these days.
Yeah.
So what it sounds like to me is the method you described is like a divination method, where you like a divination rod, but in this way you're using the energy of your body and how it moves. In collaboration with another person.
And physical too. I've noticed that if I have like a headache before an event, and that means I'm not supposed to be going there. That's my body
following the signs.
Yes, there are things.
That's another big part of intuition and feeling like I'm flowing with my life is following the signs. And sometimes they might seem like just coincidences, and I'll follow them kind of with a smile on my face, like, I don't even know if that's really a sign or not, but I didn't really have anything else going, so I might as well. And other times it's a very clear sign.
And we still ignore those too.
Sometimes we can still ignore those, yeah. But I think paying attention to the signs is a big part of intuition as well. I'm glad you said that.
Thank you.
Anything else? Intuition.
Intuition. I think it's very important. Those of you that are parents, I think intuition should be taught. I know they always say trust your gut to your kids, but like I really think there needs to be more emphasis on that kind of stuff, especially with our children. There have been times where, as a late teenager, early young adult, where I would feel like I need to not be in the situation, and I'm so grateful that my parents like gave me that ability to know to get out and to know like that's your intuition telling you like you need to listen to your gut and all that stuff. My mom would always tell me like women have amazing intuition, so I knew long before when I was engaged back in the day, and long before I'd found out that my fiance was cheating on me, I just knew. Sometimes my intuition can sometimes scream at me, like a loud one, like, don't freaking call that person. Like that kind of stuff. And it's like, oh my God, like that's not my inner voice. That's something else. That's like the guardians or whatever you want to call it around you. But it's there, the intuition's there in many ways, shape, and form. It can be physical, it can be spiritual, but they're all there at all times. And we're all highly intuitive beings because we're animals. I feel like animals in general are highly intuitive, don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we were talking about precognition earlier, and how like animals will flee the forests before the fire or earthquake. Yeah. Not because they're feeling subtle vibrations, but because they're picking up on something. Whether time doesn't exist and we're tapped into the through line of all that is, or there's actually some precognitive like thing going on, that's to be determined. And as people at the Institute of Noetic Sciences and in other places are doing actual research to try to figure that out.
All right, I'm reading this one first.
But we can, I feel like my life is an experiment, which is why I tried to do different diets or try different exercise regimens or biohacking of various sorts.
I love that shit too.
So, I might have infinite incarnations, but I don't know. And so if I only have this one, I've always considered myself a scientist. When I was a little kid, my first dream job was mad scientist.
That's the best first dream job I've ever heard.
And then I went on to like find interest in like wizardry and like, oh yeah, that's what a mad scientist is.
Well, we are wizards. That's the joke, you guys, is J.K. Rowling, we didn't get the letter. We were born with the letter. That's the thing, you guys. We are all wizards, and we are using our witchcraft daily with our words. Our word is our spell.
We spell words.
Oh, we spell words.
What is a curse word? Is a curse? I put a curse on you. Curse word.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, you're gonna like this other book.
I'm loving all of this. I'm big on words, you guys. And that's another thing. I don't say good morning anymore. You'll never hear me say those words. What?
What does the title say? Synchronostic phonetomology. G-N-O-S-T-I-C. Phonetomology. Occult grammar and language.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so if we look into the deeper meaning of words, we find out that yeah, that's the same one as this one too. Yeah, so John Hooks.
I had a feeling, oh my god, these underground books, man.
Yeah. So you were also talking about music, and so so Thich Nhat Hanh, the famous Vietnamese Buddhist monk, he says we consume not just what we eat and drink, but we consume through all of our senses. So when you watch and listen to things, you're consuming too. So you said, I think maybe before we started, or no, I forget. Anyway, you said rap music you couldn't really listen to. So
bums me out now.
It became aware. I became aware that watching violence and over sexualized media and listening to music was affecting my consciousness. I grew up with a lot of fear and aggression. So like if I walk down the street and I see somebody coming towards me, I start imagining if they attack me. And I'm like, what the hell? I don't need to imagine a fight. Like that's ridiculous. Why am I generating this violence? Or indulging in sexual fantasies throughout the day. And I felt like I wanted more calmness in my mental state. Yeah. So I looked at what I was consuming, and so I realized I needed to listen to less aggressive music and consume less aggressive media. So I started listening to instrumental music and instrumental hip hop, and that did me all right for a while. But then I eventually found like spiritual hip hop and people communicating consciousness and people who are well versed in occult language and could referencing Sanskrit scriptures and ancient Hermetic philosophies.
See, I like that stuff. And they sing about manifesting and abundance and
so good.
And higher power and high vibes and all that. I love that. There's this one guy I just stumbled upon on YouTube the other day, and I was so grateful. I was listening to another friend's music who's kind of into that kind of singing too. Oh man, am I ever going to find his stuff again? Wow. I don't know if it's ever going to be there again. It was
That's
such
all right.
a
You can
beautiful
keep looking for it if you want.
Yeah.
But so this language being our programming, if language is slightly removed from the reality of what it symbolizes, right? Language is a symbol for the actual. And so it forms how we think about things, and it is our template for the types of things we even can think about. That's why people who speak different languages have different ways of articulating things. So like in English, we have one word for love, but in other languages, you've got familial love and erotic love, and there can be multiple ways to describe something that is simplified in certain languages. So I think when we start to understand the power of language, it plays into what you said about how we are all wizards.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm coming into that power now as an adult. Last year I decided to really embrace magic, and then I read this guy's book and his follow-up book. Okay. After I had decided that I was going to embrace magic last year, the fucking follow-up book was Real Magic. Ancient Wisdom,
it's
Modern
written
Science,
by him.
And a Guide to the Secret Power of the Universe.
Okay, I'm going to borrow this one first, and then when I come back, sure. I'll switch it out for that one, and then we'll... Yeah. We will really talk.
So, I mean, the idea is like what is magic? And some say it's letting your will manifest. But I think the trick to being a magician is to realize that you are the magic. It's not anything you have to do to create magic. It's what you have to do to stop your limiting beliefs from preventing you from embracing your magical abilities. We're creating it as we're going. And language is really a powerful part of that. So I'm glad we're on the same page about that. Yeah. So I forget if I said this in one of the other podcasts, but I was a little kid, and I had to be in this play when I was maybe second grade. And my buddy and I auditioned for the part of the wizard. And the other kids couldn't really read the part, and so we were like, one of us is going to get it for sure. But he got the part, and so I was the understudy. And though I'm more of the wizard type, I'm a tall, skinny...
Totally, you are the wizard type.
He had like a cuter kid. He was like shorter, and he had like the little bowl cut, and like...
Oh, totally.
He was a cute kid.
Yeah.
So he got the part, and I was the understudy, and I had to be a toy soldier. So my whole life, I kind of took on that persona of having to soldier my way through difficult situations. And it was only in the last few years I realized I'm a fucking wizard.
Yes.
And I need to magic my way through all of these situations, and my will is the reality. And even if it's a misperception of reality, how I see it is going to be my reality. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the power of being to influence the world around us is just, I'm so happy to be coming into my true will, which I see as nothing other than the true will of the universe manifesting not through me, but as me. I'm not
with you.
Different from it. With me, as me, for me, to me, from me. It's all me. You're me.
Yes. It's all just one thing, you guys. Yeah. It's all one thing. And that's it.
And I mean, and that comes off as a new age platitude. It's all one. But as I explored on more subtle levels, it becomes more apparent that it really is subtly and refined. And
we'd be crazy not to think that we're not all one. That's why everyone's like, oh, me too. Everyone acts all shocked when they say those, like, oh, I feel the same way. It's like, no, shit. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So we can talk about it on an energetic, ethereal level. But in the last podcast, I talked about the gentleman I spoke with, Tom Morris. He's also an environmentalist, and I applauded him because,
oh my gosh,
he's the only other person I've ever heard tell a group of people younger than him, you are not other than nature. And so he told the classroom that in the environmental leadership class. But I tell the kids that I live with, the kid, I think little Joe wanted to squash a bug. And I was like, well, he's like, well, the bugs belong out in nature. And I was like, do you think you're different than nature? We're part of it. We are. Yeah. You're breathing the same air. We're drinking the same water. That's dinosaur pee.
Yeah.
That gave me so much joy as a kid to know that I was drinking dinosaur pee. I can't express to you the level of joy that I felt. So maybe that's a good segue to the next thing I wanted to talk about.
Cool.
It's, intuition and then gratitude.
Oh my God.
So I heard you casually brush over the fact that you have a gratitude practice. And,
yes.
I have another friend, Emma Bauer. She has a gratitude practice. She wakes up and writes down what she's grateful for. And I've tried to implement this, and I haven't been successful in being consistent with it. But anytime that I either write it down or even have the thought of what I'm grateful for, it's transformative for my mind state in that moment, and I have come to understand that has long-term benefits as well. So what is your what are your thoughts on gratitude, and what kind of a practice do you have?
So I have a very unique practice that I obtained from a friend who actually heard it on another podcast, from a woman that we actually follow and have followed separately for years, ironically. So oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name right now. But she's Gala Darling. Gala Darling. She wrote the book Radical Self-Love, and I found her at a time where I was not loving myself very much. So, and so grateful that I've been able to continue to follow her and be on that same level with her and vibe high with her in my own form too. So, yeah. What they do is they call each other every morning, and not necessarily a call because, time and actually, has things. So, what we do is voice recordings on our iPhone, or any phone probably has those little apps, and you do a voice message. And sometimes my voicemail's a 2-minute voicemail to her, and sometimes it's a 5-minute voicemail to her. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I have so much gratitude today, but we literally talk about gratitude even when our shit was going down. Like last year, we were both going through some marital problems, and we would say how much we were grateful for our husbands and how much we loved them, and we loved the adversity that we're going through, and how I was so important for us and what we were learning from it. Like, wow. We would get deep on gratitude. We would be grateful for the showers we got to take and the air conditioning that we had in the summertime, and we would just be so grateful, even knowing that we were both two women growing up in affluent cities with husbands that were taking ridiculously good care of us, and having healthy families. Like, we have so much to be grateful for that we just exist in it and we don't even realize, And so, I really wanted to spread that message. And so we've been doing this now for over a year. It started July of last year, I believe. And we've done book clubs with self-help too, that help people find more gratitude also, because honestly, positive mental attitude starts when we're grateful. And they always say, don't be grateful for like just anything. Be grateful for everything. Be grateful for I'm grateful for the mailman that brings me the mail. I'm grateful for the bus driver that takes my kids to school. I'm just so grateful on Labor Day when people are working and I'm not. I'm just grateful for so many things. And you don't have to come from nothing to be grateful from stuff. Luckily have had the privilege of coming from nothing and being where I'm at today. So I've lived so many different lives and I know the other side of the coin, but you don't have to be from one side of the tracks or the other to be grateful. You can be grateful at any time. Grateful for your health. Grateful for the fact that you can hear this podcast right now. And I'm grateful that I have the emotion, the ability to even get sensitive about this, because some people don't even have that emotion. So I'm just grateful for everything. I actually say so much in my head, like, oh, look at you fucking cool plant. You're looking so good. I talk to plants on hikes and I am just so grateful for the animals around me and just an opportunity to even connect with a friend on a Sunday morning. And this is, people go to church. This is my church.
Nice. So earlier you said we talked about don't fake it till you make it. So what about when you're not feeling grateful? That's when you should be the most grateful. Like I was saying, I feel like she and I could have had such a different reaction to last summer, and both of us could be divorced right now if we wanted to. Anybody can make those decisions anytime at any moment. But we chose to persevere through some really difficult situations and really hard times. And I'm not saying that if I didn't have her and our gratitude, and just when you hear other people's gratitude, it opens up your gratitude more, because you're like, oh fuck, she just is grateful for this. I didn't even think about being grateful for this too. I'm going to be grateful for this too. So it's like, it's more than just those 5 things that Oprah was teaching me, because I believed in that too. I used to watch a lot of Oprah growing up, as most of us probably did, being kids at home in the 90s. But the gratitude, there means something so much to it that I make my kids do it, and it's a religion. If you think about it, I read this course one time and it talked about how all religions were under like pretty much the same. And it really is, like, all the similarities are astounding. As you were saying, the mantras, everybody has a mantra, everyone prays. So it's just so important to realize that we are all just trying to exist. And let us all just exist in the way that we are supposed to be grateful that we get to be alive in that moment. I think we forget to even be grateful to exist. And when you're not grateful, just be grateful for that, and that'll spiral out. So maybe you're having a bad day, but you have shoes on your feet, right? And you have this podcast, right? So obviously you have a car, or maybe you have an iPhone, or maybe you have a radio of some sort that you're able to have these abilities. But those things are so important to be grateful for, because nothing's going to grow. I tell my kids this because I teach my kids gratitude. So how I teach them gratitude is, you have a Santa sack full of gratitude, you guys, but you got to empty it, or you're not going to be able to fill that with anything new. So you want to give those gifts of gratitude out to everybody all day, every day. And then your sack will be replenished by the end of the night, and you can make your rounds again the next day. So keep your sack of gratitude with you at all times, and make sure you're giving it as well. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe in that same vein, I'm curious about creativity and like artistic expression, because I'm finding a lot of gratitude in my life for having that outlet. I kind of stifled my creativity for a long time, and so now that I've got all these projects going and I'm in school and I can do all this writing or whatever, the creative juices are flowing a lot more. This podcast lets me do writing and curating and art and all this stuff, and I'm always curious to hear how people get that juice out, like that creativity out. And I know you've got like some tattoos, and a buddy of mine, he's got some of his own art on him through another artist. And so what do you do to express yourself creatively, aside from your awesome platform, The Mommy Jane?
It's great that you mentioned that. I just I went to token paint, or paint and puff paint, those things, whatever they call them.
I don't know.
Yeah. So they have these things where you go, instead of having the wine and painting, they give you cannabis and you can paint. Oh my
God. Sign me up.
Right? So that's where I'm at right now. Like, that's how I get my creativity out.
That's social too.
It's social.
Oh, yes.
I'm not at a bar.
Yeah.
I'm home at a decent hour. I come home with something that is now hanging in my children's bathroom. Every day they get to see it, and then you fill up your heart and your house with art. Yeah. So I like that. That's another thing. I'm a big believer in mood boards. I'm about to create another one, because it's Virgo season, because it's ultimate manifesting season.
Mood boards or intention boards?
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, mobile. I like the mobile. I like that idea. Ooh, so yeah, I made one last year, and I would say about 90% of that stuff, maybe 100, maybe even 100 if I just really looked at it, came true. You too?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm making another one.
Yeah. I'm all about those intention boards. I mean, because it's the same thing as the power of words. You're literally laying the tracks for the train to come right over.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
we're wizards.
It's super powerful.
Make your potions.
Yeah, absolutely. Visualize yourself in the future having already done the thing. And
yes.
It's powerful. It's hugely powerful. So that being said, what kind of, I know you said you don't have a 20-year plan, but what kind of
that's great.
What kind of goals or aspirations do you have for the near future for yourself, your family, or the Mommy Jane?
Great question. Thank you so much for asking. My goals for about, from to infinity and beyond, I want to continue to educate. I really hope the 2020 brings me more traveling opportunities so that I can connect with people on a more personal level. Mm-hmm. I feel like the society feels so alone because we aren't making attempts to connect. If we make more attempts to connect, I've talked to about 4 different strangers, just had 5 to 10 minute conversations with strangers in Staples, in Trader Joe's, just random. We just talked and we never saw each other again, but it was like the best. And I felt like I was in a village, and you're at that village and you're in the courtyard and everything's passing through and you just connect. I'm feeling that consciousness is happening more. And maybe that's with the greater awakening that's happening. And maybe this is when we get into 5D, this is what's going to happen. But I don't know. I just feel like I want to do more human connection. That's why I did the beach cleanup the other week. I love seeing people and seeing people in their dharma and seeing people do good and seeing people just give more. And I hope I get to, like I said, to travel to do that. If I can bring my family along with those travels, that would be an even bigger blessing. I'm welcome to receive anything that the university is fit for that. But my family is already very successful and very happy, and I hope that they can continue to follow their dreams and provide service to the community more so that our community can be fulfilled as much as we are being fulfilled by the community. And I feel that way on my community as well. So I hope my path continues to grow so that more people can walk with me on this journey, so that we can make room for a better way of life and a higher consciousness in parenting, higher consciousness in cannabis, and higher consciousness with ourselves.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Those are good goals. I love it. I'm excited to see where you go with it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And to be a part of this community. Hell
yeah. Absolutely. We're so lucky. Gosh, we're so lucky. Yeah. And I can't wait to just do more, be more, and give more.
Hell yeah. Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. So where can people find you?
Once again, you can find me at the Mommy Jane on all platforms, even on LinkedIn, which I'm not very good at, but hey, go ahead and find me on there as well. And I'm going to eventually get back on my saddle with all that fun stuff. So Mommy Jane's in a transition period. I'm ready. I'm excited for Scorpio season. I'm going to let everything die off, and then, scary stuff. This is always a hard time. October is my hardest month every year. It might be for everybody else, but I have some serious karma in my house with Scorpio. So, but I'm working through it. Every year gets easier, right?
Yeah, and you're still cranking out videos on the YouTube channel?
YouTube will keep on happening, and follow me on Instagram so you can find out when our Patreon is going to launch and what kind of Patreon am I doing. Trust me, it'll be worth it, okay?
Nice. Sweet. Is there anything else you'd like to share before I ask you our final few questions and to wrap it up?
Yes. I would love if,
what do you got?
Just for those of you, I know you guys might think that I'm like bashing families and stuff like that, but I really am big on cultivating a family life, important family life, in any way that you might see it. If it's you and a dog, that's family. If it's, you and your husband and kids, that's family. If it's you and your wife and you don't have children, then that's family too. But really going back to family, especially because the holidays are coming back on and I know everyone's going to start to feel lonely. Don't let the holidays bring you down. This should be your time to connect with self. Find out where you need to be with yourself, and I bet that'll bring you the best 2020 that you can find.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes.
All right, so I'd like to ask a handful of questions at the end.
Fun.
Let's see what people come up with. It's been pretty interesting so far. So the name of this podcast is A Flair for the Curious. I'm a curious individual. I've been curious about what you've been getting into, and now I've got a little more insight into that, so thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
What is something that you have been curious about lately or would like to learn more about?
As I mentioned earlier, actually, I'm very curious about mushrooms. I'm not going to pronounce it right, but it's like starts with a P. Psilocybin. Psilocybin. I know I always butcher these fancy terms that I'm learning, but I'm not a scientist, you guys. I'm not trying to.
So psilocybin is one chemical that comes from some mushrooms.
Derived from some mushrooms.
But there's other ones like Amanita muscaria, the red one with the white dots.
Yes.
That has muscimol in it. And then there's a third one that's less popular, harder to come by. So there's different psychedelic compounds within mushrooms. So mushrooms are pretty wide range to explore. It's
all mushrooms. I want the fungi to be researched. I think we need more plant medicine. I'm a big believer in I feel like if we use drugs in the way that they were intended, then there's nothing wrong with it. And it's the abuse that really gets out of hand. It's abuse of food that gets out of hand. It's abuse of coffee that gets out of hand. It's abuse of sex that gets out of hand. It's abuse of spending that gets out of hand. There's abuse in so many different ways and shapes and forms. And if we just see everything in a way that we just don't abuse and just use, then nothing's a threat. We only make things a threat if we make it a threat, even humans. So just don't make it a threat and be open to everything. And we might be able to find some amazing healing properties in a lot of plants that we haven't really given a chance yet.
So. Or that we've stopped giving a chance.
Oh yeah,
because historically
give more plants a chance.
Yeah, right.
Here's my new slogan for 2020.
Nice. So I think with this psychedelic resurgence, it is completely aligned with the other things we were talking about in terms of a return to community life and communal life, communing with ourselves, communing with each other, communing with our plant and our plants, our planet. Yes. Our planet was what I was going for.
And plants. Communicate with those too. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And so throughout history, we've had plant medicines of both psychoactive and non-psychoactive, and plant medicine that alters our consciousness gives us deeper insights to so many things.
So many things.
I don't want to go too far off on a tangent about that, but
that's a whole nother podcast.
But we can. But some of the visions that people have in altered states correspond with some of the things people see under microscopes, and so there are different ways of exploration. Just like the ancients in India could do deep meditation and explore the universe, you can travel the universe through going within. So what is this book? The Cosmic Serpent by
DNA.
Jeremy Narby. So through ayahuasca, the people spoken about in that book, they have visions of what DNA looks like, and they have both in its double helix form and its broken off form, and it's this idea of a water serpent, which is what DNA is, right? And so there's different things. The serpent is also related to Kundalini energy sometimes, but
I haven't done that yet. But have you?
I've had some experiences, but in regards to DNA, some of the indigenous cultures that use water snakes are referring to DNA and the behavior of DNA. So through ayahuasca, not only are they getting a deep understanding of DNA and what it means to be a life form on this planet, but they have their whole encyclopedia of medicines, often informed by the visions that they have. They'll have a vision then the spirits will speak to them and say, go into the forest, pick this plant to help this person with that ailment, and it'll work.
Now that's some intuition.
It's the plant medicine communicating with you, and so that's just one example. But I think these, like I said, these plant medicines let us connect in ways that we, throughout our entire history, have been connected.
And we detached, apparently, from
in very intentional ways, whether it's appropriating the frequency of rock music to distort our mental frequency, or whatever the fuck else is going on with pharmaceuticals and altering the environment
and our food.
The food, I mean, the industry is keeping you sick, so you'll keep buying the products instead of actually treating what you have going on, or preventative
care. Sitting with the problem, you guys. You can send healing. I've fixed my neck. a wart fell off my finger. I healed it off this summer. May have been CBD too, but hey.
That's something else I've talked about on this podcast a lot before, is tapping into our ability to induce what we refer to as the placebo effect.
I freaking believe in placebo induction. Yes.
Yeah.
If we can create dopamine, we can create that.
You can do all the things. And so it's just figuring out what the technology is that we're actually embodying, because holy shit, it's phenomenal, and we give it so much less credit than it deserves.
Yeah, plants regenerate. I bring plants back to life all the time. Why are we not like that? We are totally like that.
We are totally like that. Yeah, I love it. Sweet. I love it. That's a great thing to be curious about. Okay, next question. Curious has two meanings, and the other one is strange or weird, right? That's curious, right?
Okay.
So, could you share with us a strange or unexplainable experience you've had? I know you've mentioned in the past that you've had out-of-body experiences that resulted in what you consider a spiritual awakening.
Yes.
I'm happy to hear about that. And or anything else that is coming to mind. It looks like you've got something.
I have a few things. I'm trying to what I want to do.
You can say multiple things.
I definitely feel like I've seen alien spaceships in my lifetime, so I definitely want to just say that real fast. I believe in fucking aliens, and you guys are crazy because we're aliens too. So if you don't believe in aliens, look at yourself. You are an alien. If you went to another planet, you'd be an alien. Okay? So aliens exist.
One of my favorite things to rabble rouse about is, oh, you believe in a god? Is the god off the planet? Okay, that's an alien. You worship aliens.
There it is. Yay. Let's all think about things for what they actually are.
And this is a massive spaceship flying through space.
Yeah.
Like, holy
and everything's
shit.
fine, and yet we're still magnetized towards it.
And we're still not sure if, like, the water on this planet came from an outside source, and, like, what the hell? And, like, are the aliens really us in the future? And I don't know. Is anything other than a projection of our own minds? And I don't know.
Is this all a dream? Yeah.
So aliens exist.
Aliens exist, number one. I've definitely also seen like ghost premonitions in my family's house. I've seen brooms levitate in the air and fall apart. I've had during a sleepover.
Wait.
She never slept over again, obviously. But
what happened?
Because my grandparents both died in the house that I grew up in. Because in Missouri, where we came from, the tradition was you leave the body in front of the fire. Thank you. In front of the fireplace for a couple days. I think it's to make sure that they weren't like just not dead, because I'm sure back in the day things would happen. People would just be passed out and people would bury people and stuff.
Yeah.
So
they used to put bell.
It's like the version of the bell. So I believe that perhaps my home is the Novato Creek, and that's all highly Miwok territory, which is a very, very spiritual Native American tribe that existed for. I mean, they're very small populace now, but that's where we dominantly took over as citizens of Novato and stuff. So I can only imagine the energies that are also there. But I definitely had a lot of crazy paranormal stuff growing up. But as far as like other things, like recently, in the last like 10 years, I told you about the sleep paralysis. I've dealt with that, which is the only reason why I don't do astral travel very much, because I'm afraid of that feeling again, like what if I wake up and I'm not quite done yet and all that stuff. So last night I did a, like some sort of guided meditation into the seventh dimension on YouTube, and it had like 10,000 likes. That's a pretty highly rated YouTube video. So I'm like, I can handle this. If 10,000 people are like okay with this, then I'm fine. I'm not gonna I'll be safe. So I'm starting to do it, and right in the middle of it, he's like going along the journey, and we're like making our eyes into wax and melting our eyes and all this crazy shit. So we're going along into our journey, and all of a sudden I see like my normal, cause he's talking about the colors we see. He's like, and you see the golds and the maroons and the blues and greens that you see. And I'm like looking at my little swirlies and the little like things that I normally see. And sometimes like if I have like some strong edibles, I'll see some crazy visuals. I'm not going to lie. Okay. However, last night was so different. It got like, all of a sudden it got like darker. Like the darkness got dark. Cause how it's like when your eyes are closed, it's not quite dark, but all of a sudden it got dark. And I saw what like almost is like oh my God, what the heck? Like a globe. I was trying to explain it to Anthony that it was like a globe that had split open, and it had like the fractures of like when a thing opens up like a map, but it had like the grids too. And the guy on the video was like telling us to like go inside or whatever it was that I was seeing was probably not what he was talking about. I don't know maybe I have no idea, but I got too scared to go in there, and that's when I tore the headphones off and I like forced myself away because I didn't feel like I was lucid enough to be in that state of mind. I felt like I was still, and when I did, my heart was racing really fast, and I didn't realize that because I was doing such slow breaths. I thought were slow breaths to get to that state. We were doing some breathing techniques and stuff. I don't know, maybe I'll do it again tonight and see if it has a different reaction.
In the past, when you've had sleep paralysis, you've obviously come out of it. You're moving now.
Yeah.
So,
well, my friend said you can die if you cross over. Like my friend's told, I don't know, is she lying? Is she like psyching me out?
I don't know what her qualifications are for saying that.
It's true.
I haven't met this person, so I don't want to say anything about.
She says she actually travels a lot.
Now, I don't. My inclination is to say no.
Okay.
You couldn't. I'm not going to say you can't die, but I would think that even if you came back but were paralyzed, you're going to wake up out of it sooner or later.
That's true. It's just like a tiny coma.
I got a buddy. He often wakes up with sleep paralysis in 10 or 15 minutes, and then he's fine. And it's an ongoing thing, and he's kind of learned to explore it, and he's been curious about it, and I think that's allowed him to be a little more lighthearted and playful about it.
I probably shouldn't fear it so much. That's not a good space for me to be feeling it that way. Maybe that's another reason why I should probably tap into it again, so I don't feel the fear.
Well, like we were talking about before, before Buddha's Great Awakening, he had to fight the demons. He saw Mara and the three daughters, and anything that you're seeing is a projection of yourself. And you're good.
Yeah.
You're God. So I mean, even if it gets bad and it gets ugly and it gets dark, those are things that are coming up for you to process. And I don't know if you've ever processed anything before, but when you're done, you feel better.
Yeah, it feels
right.
Good.
So if it starts to get dark, if you've got the time and the energy for it, try to wait it out. That would be what I would want to do. But I've also stopped myself mid technique and be like, that's too intense, I'm done.
You have?
from doing different things. Like I try all these different breathing techniques. Like I do like the Wim Hof method, or with my yoga teacher and friend that I did an earlier podcast with. We did 15 minutes of powerful breathing. We're doing like a 3-part breathing, and like your whole body gets like gnarls up and it's super intense. Like when I try to do that kind of technique on my own, I usually stop by 10 minutes, but when I have somebody else encouraging me to do it, I can finish. So you're not alone in being like, oh, that's fucking intense. Let me back off a little bit.
Damn, am I being like a baby about this?
No, I mean, and especially for something new, and you're not coming in with like a framework and like a guide and a mentor. You're exploring it on your own.
I know. I was just like, let's try this tonight.
Like anything else, you're going to dip your toe in and then come back and maybe wade in, and then eventually you're ready to just dive in head first. And especially if you're going on your own, then you take it at your pace that you feel good.
Yeah.
So
Look at the phone call when I do.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear how that turns out, and maybe you can send me that link.
I'm already, I'm going to do it now, actually. Dude, it's nuts. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, so that's... Yeah, are you familiar with Stanislav Grof?
No.
So he's this guy in the 60s. A lot of people were starting to experiment with psychedelics and psychotherapy, but then they made it illegal. And as you know, some people like Ram Dass and Richard Alpert lost their jobs, and essentially that form of research was minimized for 40, 50 years until now we're having the resurgence. But Stanislav Grof, he wanted to continue studying altered states of consciousness and their therapeutic effects. And I'm not sure how he came about this realization, but he realized through breathing techniques, you can also induce altered states of consciousness. So he had, which we know through different breathing techniques, we can do this.
Yes.
So his method is holotropic breath work. That's what he calls his. And then I think we were talking maybe before we started about the rebirthing technique of,
in the bathtub?
Of Leonard Orr, who just passed this week.
I'm going to write that one down.
May his soul rest in peace.
Yes,
Leonard Orr. Yeah, that's the rebirthing technique. And that one is more like cyclical breathing. So you breathe in and let gravity exhale, and when it gets to the bottom, you inhale again. And so it's a cyclical kind of breathing. And so many different things, but it's some debate over whether it's hyperventilating or not, but they're different things. You can flood your energy field with prana, right? Pranayama in yoga is breath exercises, but prana is the energy. You're doing different. you're using the breath as a vehicle. It's the pranayama. So, altered states of consciousness, Stanislav Grof, breathing techniques. I'm into it.
Yeah, I've done some heavy breathing we did it underground. Literally, it was in the basement of downtown LA with like 40 people in like this cave room thing, and we were doing with the laying down. And I'm like, I'm like, are we fucking levitating? I got to like some point where I'm like, damn.
Yeah. And often that's coupled with drumming.
They had a person doing that, and it was intense. I was like, this was one of and it was hours after I'd been held hostage at the Amtrak. So I'd had a near-death experience, then went and done that, and it was the fucking wildest shit. To this day, like my friend that was there, we still talk about them. Like, dude, remember that time when I fucking went to the thing still after like I almost died?
Yeah.
It was nuts.
Wow.
It was really, really nuts. So definitely, like, I feel like breathing is not to be fucked with. That's a whole nother spell. You know, and you gotta know what you're getting yourself into too. Yeah.
It can be used for so many different things.
I mean, it's like a drug itself.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. I mean, well, the reality is our entire experience is a chemical experience. It's all different levels, right? And so you're altering your physiology by regulating your breath in different ways. And that alters your chemical experience. So it is a drug.
Dang,
the human experience, right?
The human experience.
The embodied human experience. When the disembodied human experience, when we're doing the astral projecting, I guess I can't really speak for the dopamine levels there, but
yeah.
It's all pretty interesting.
I've only had 2 out-of-body experiences. One, when I gave birth to my daughter, and 2, when I thought I'd lost her. Remember when she went missing?
Yeah.
And I took that shower because I was in my like moments of desperation after it had gone to like hour 3. I like got into the shower, and cause that's like when I couldn't sleep when I was in my 20s, I'd go there to like go back to sleep. And I remember getting into the bath and just being like, the shower, but I was crouching into the bath, and I was out of my body staring at myself crouching down, and somehow I got back in. I don't even remember how I got back in, but that was the day I gave 0 fucks about anything moving forward. I was going to get my daughter full time, or as best as I could. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted her for the school year. I didn't want her out of my sight ever again. Like, it was like, what are you going to do with your life after this? And I went hard on the Mommy Jane. Like a few months prior, I'd started it, but that's when I was like, I'm going to events. I'm going to start doing things. I'm going to start making events. Like it was just like, why stop?
Yeah.
You know, like you guys any day could stop for us. So why stop? So that's what really got my, like, have an out of body experience. That'll get your freaking body going.
Wow. Yeah. I love it. Hell yeah. All right. Last question I want to ask.
Yeah.
Bringing it all home.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
Can you name a time that you experienced profound beauty?
Honestly, this is going to sound so cheesy. Please don't roll your eyes, you guys. Every day, like right now in this moment, if you are not looking around and fucking loving life, like in love with your life, then what are you doing? Like, you need to be fucking changing things if you are not looking around and loving every breath you're taking, every word you're seeing, every poster, every moment that you are inhaling a freaking breath of air. It is like, that should be love. Your life should be love at all times. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving us all such a wonderful example of how to really embrace that beauty. Your gratitude practice, living
so
from
grateful.
the heart.
So grateful.
Wow. Jessica, thank you so much for coming out today and sharing this time and sharing all of your life wisdom and your love for the beauty that is existence.
You're so lucky.
Continuously inspired by you and the work that you're doing.
Thank you for allowing me to be here today, and thank you those of you that listened.
All right, there it is. The Mommy Jane's Neighborhood can be found on Instagram at themommyjane. And all the links you need are at aflairforthecurious.com. Go ahead and rate and review this podcast. Send me some feedback. I'd love to know what you think. Do you have your own story about history of cannabis? Have you been stigmatized in your own communities, by your own families, possibly? I'd love to hear your story. Share it with me. Let's get the conversation going. We are stronger together. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can share it with somebody you know. That's the best way to get the word out. And if you're able to make a financial contribution, as this is a labor of love that I produce out of pocket, with no advertisements for you to listen to. You can also go to aflairforthecurious.com, click the support button, and you can make a financial contribution through Venmo, Cash App, Patreon, Zelle, or PayPal. On the next episode of A Flair for the Curious, I'm going to chat with Kevin Akkad, who is the founder of Inner Shift Healing. He is a Reiki-infused masseuse who is also an intuitive and angel communicator. And he's got an awesome channel on YouTube where he also shares some of his insights and teachings. And we get into it. We really have a good conversation. And he does some channeling, and it's a good time. So do subscribe to the podcast so you're notified when that comes out. Should be in the next week or so. All right, friends, I'm going to move it along, but I do encourage you to stay curious. Never stop asking those good questions, and keep your hearts open. Have a good one, everybody. Peace.